got playoffs. Welcome to the Misreps podcast. My name's Kanal, and I'm joined here with Adam. How you doing, man?
Playoff season for the Seahawks because everyone counted us out.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought, right? Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk it, right?
I know
Not
we
me.
got we,
I literally
we
with
got
that
Niners next week, but let us have this, all right? This is gonna be a good week.
9-8. Your Seahawks are 9-8. It's a weird. Actually, that's actually for me. I remember saying I think in the first episode or so a while ago that I didn't think the Seahawks were going to get to the playoffs. Actually, I felt like we were going to be like a solid 6 or 7 win team, and I got proven wrong, especially with that 6-3 start that we had. But
Yeah, that was our saving grace, wasn't it?
it
That we
was,
started off hot.
yeah. The only reason, and we beat Detroit Lions earlier in the season. That helped out in the end. So,
Oh yeah, for sure. And for especially for like the tiebreakers and stuff like that, because I think they finished 9-8 as well, right? So that was the defining.
yeah,
That's what it came down to.
because that was just a weird game for the Lions. But we'll definitely talk about more on that. But yeah, playoffs for the Seahawks. I'm a happy fan right now. I just hope we put up a fight and we actually maybe even win against the
No,
49ers.
I mean we're head ass fans, but we ain't head ass fans.
I will.
We're
I'm gonna
realistic,
cheer for my Seahawks no matter what,
no
man.
matter what. And you never know, weirder things have happened.
A lot.
But you want to just go right into the game?
Yeah, let's get into it, man. It was 1916 your Seahawks. We were both right. We chose our own Seahawks. If we chose otherwise, someone would have looked crazy during this podcast episode. But yeah, 1916. I offensively, Gino is now the single season passing yard record holder for the Seahawks over Russell Wilson's record with 4,292 yards. By the way, he had a pretty, I will say, a shaky game.
That's fair. That's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah, started the game off with a pick, and I think he had 2 picks or 3. No, he had 2 or 3 picks
I think he
total.
had two.
Yeah, and man, those picks.
Jalen Ramsey had both of them.
Of course he did. Those picks were pretty much like it could have made, especially with how that game was going. Those 2 picks could have changed that game, but we fought through. We came through in the end, got the win. K9 got 1,000 yards on the season, second rookie to do so for the Seahawks, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, I think the first was Kurt Warner.
Oh yeah, Kurt Warner.
Not bag boy Kurt Warner. Running back Kurt Warner. Kurt with a C.
Nah, I'm messing with you, man. But yeah, I hopefully he can get some offensive rookie of the year award for him. But we'll see what that looks like with all the other rookies that were balling out this season. And yeah, Tyler Lockett was the man. The next Doug Baldwin, in that he's an elite receiver that no one is looking at.
Never.
Never.
And it was like him out on the field was the difference between winning and losing this game. It's just because you can't beat the reliability of when that Tyler's going to be open whenever you look at him.
That touchdown pass to him was
That was
such a good throw. Like, it gave me Russell in that sense. It was a Russell Wilson-esque throw. Like,
just right in the right in the bread basket.
Yeah, I used to always say, right in the pillow, just throw it right into the just have a nice big pillow. It's oh, there we go. Because every time Tyler Lockett used to catch a ball, it'll always just be from up in the sky. Okay, you just drop right here, please.
Just I know where it is.
I know where it is. Whoop.
This game kind of started off similar to the Carolina game. I think the Carolina game. I think Gino threw a pick on his very first pass attempt as well. But what it came down to, the difference was the defense came to play this time around, and so I think that helped out a lot because
defense played their asses off. You just got to clap for the defense, because let's talk about it, right?
Yeah,
all of the saving tackles, all of the sacks, all the pressures. Yeah, 5 sacks total. You got 1 for Kobe Bryant. Are we sure he's not an off-ball linebacker at this point? By the way, because his stat line for the season is 4+, 4 more than 4 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, and 4, besides the 4 passes defended, and that's I believe that's for as a rookie, first rookie defensive back. As someone else tweeted about this, to finish with that, and the only other 2 players to do it were D linemen. That's Chase Young and Max Crosby. So are we sure he's not a linebacker in disguise?
Yeah, we put Kobe Bryant right next to those 2, and I think he fits right in, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
Chase Young
man.
Chase Young is a monster of a human
I'm
being.
I'm I'm actually glad he's back in and playing and stuff like that though after his ACL tear for sure.
Yeah,
Other stuff that happened with the Seahawks defense though was yeah, we got one sack for Kobe Bryant, one for Boy Mafe, one for Darrell Taylor, 1.5 for Bruce Irvin, who like he was balling out for that game. Like he's looking like he was like 28 all over again, or 27 if you really want to go there. But like and then half a sack for Nuosu as well, which again that was a great free agency pick with him, because every time he's a difference maker, even if he's not making all the sacks and stuff. Like that speed of him running, rushing after like the quarterback and stuff. Like even a lot of Chargers fans were basically saying like you got speed on your hands. Like he's basically that zoom like linebacker when you need it on the edge.
could you imagine the Chargers if they were able to retain him? They would have a pretty I mean, their defense already did start rounding out towards the end of the season, but if they also had Uchenna Nwosu back there at the linebackers level, then, that would have been unreal for them. They would have been making a strong push.
Yeah, I think it was because we're only paying him a 1 year deal, isn't he? A free agent unless we got to give him a contract, right?
I think it's a 2-year deal, so
Oh, 2 year.
they're probably already going to start doing contract conversations and that thing this offseason. Obviously, he started the season off extremely hot. He kind of cooled down a little bit, but it kind of not. I wouldn't say cool down is the right word. He took more of like a more
I think I
team
rather
team
just
oriented.
yeah
Like he contributed more to the team than he did with individual stats, if that makes sense. Like
yeah. Mhm.
like other players wouldn't have done as well as they did had he not been doing his off ball movements and that kind of thing.
I personally feel like it's I feel like he was given the same play the whole season. It was just like the defense, everyone else on the defense elevated themselves and they started contributing to like Boy Mafe, because I know he wasn't really in the like in the rotation as much earlier in the season, and then towards the end, especially with some injuries and stuff, he actually got some playing time and actually became like a good, like in terms of like as a rookie, like he did really good for the team. And of course, Bruce Irvin being 35, he's a free agent too. So I don't know if we're gonna retain him unless we keep him indoors for like a coaching position or something. Because I don't know if you want to
Or
play with.
like a player coach type of thing is I think what they'll end up doing is like a guy that sits on the bench. He's kind of like cover, but he's um he's more of a leader role than he is a contributor.
Yeah, because I don't know if anyone wants a 36-year-old edge player. So like
Hey, we do.
we do
we
from like a bridge, and for like whoever
you
else
got to
we
have it,
get
right?
in the draft.
You can't just have a bunch of rookies out there. You need to have some level of something to rally around, someone that can just keep everybody reined in and focused and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
I mean, we wish it was Bobby Wagner, because Bobby Wagner, can we just take a minute and appreciate the standing ovation, like the crowd cheers and everything that Bobby got when he got back,
Oh
when he
yeah,
came onto
the
the field?
complete opposite from Russ.
Yeah, Bobby, like, he's gonna go in the Ring of Honor. He'll go down as one of the best linebackers in Seahawks history, if not in NFL history, because even this year he was probably one of the top ranked in terms of like PFF rankings. He was one of the top ranked linebackers for the Rams, and for doing it, what is it? What is he on his 10th season now? I think,
I think so. Yeah.
and he's been doing it since he's a rookie. So for him to continue and do that, it's that's unreal. So he got what he deserves. The fans loved him. We didn't want to see him go, but he didn't make a big stink about it. He didn't do anything ridiculous. It was a mutual parting, and guys still balling out, which is great to see.
Yeah, it was how he left was definitely a lot different than with Russ, especially for Wagner. I think it was just like Pete Carroll and him just sat down and it's like, look, Russ is gone. I'm not sure if he said like, we're not going to pay you or anything, but it's just like, hey, we want to give you that free reign to go out and find what you need to do because we're just starting a new leaf and all that stuff. So I'm glad he got a start with the Rams. I kind of felt like he was trying to do that Super Bowl run. So that's why he
Yeah.
probably latched with the Rams like after their Super Bowl win and stuff like that. But of course, that didn't pan out well for the Rams as a whole.
You don't say.
He was really like if anything, he's like the highlight at this stage for the Rams defense at this point.
Him
So
and Jalen Ramsey, because Aaron Donald hasn't been playing.
yeah, and I believe they already have him on contract too. So it's just a matter of like what the Rams are going to do next, because we're going to talk about them coach shakeups in a minute, but also want to give a shout out to Quandre Diggs for getting like the pick that pretty much just eliminated the Lions, and it was his fifth pick of the season, by the way. Which I remember someone else, whatchamacallit, from like I forgot his name, but from That's Good Sports. He definitely mentioned, like, he definitely, I remember his like his little quip about it. He was just like, you know what, just we gotta get, you have to just get the pick, but not just get the pick, but like point it off towards Bobby Wagner on the sideline and not even run it back because he had room to run it back. Let's
He
be
had room to
honest.
run. That was a funny thing. Yeah, but, it's I mean, everybody's bitching about it. They wanted it to be taunting, but it's just it's part of the game. Just
That's
don't take
no,
it.
that's not taunting. I've seen stuff this season. I forgot. I don't have like the perfect example of like a person was doing something and it didn't get called for taunting at all. Oh, I remember. It's when the Vikings had like their real quick. The Vikings had like their bad game, and Justin Jefferson only had like what 13 yards, and I forgot
That was
who.
against the Packers.
Right, and then one of the Packers corners actually just
He
like
started grittying
he
on him.
did the gritty. I
I
was
think
like,
that was
that's. I
Jair.
said that's not taunting, huh?
I think
Hmm?
I think that's Jair Alexander. I
Yeah,
think that's what
Jair
his name is.
Alexander, he's a good corner, so you got to give him props for that one. But
Yeah,
anywho,
when and while we're on the topic of
mhm.
Jair Alexander, I loved his little quip or like his little bit on when he got that pick against the Dolphins and he was lined up against Tyreek.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you remember that that
yeah,
little post game interview where he was like, "Oh snap, number 10, fast." Let me back up really quick.
oh man, like hold up a sec. Like, yeah, you have to give respect to anyone that's a speed receiver and stuff. That's why you see a lot of corners are like giving space for Tyreek Hill and Waddle over there.
Yeah,
So
other things on this game, I one thing that we saw that we kind of appreciated as fans was Gino put himself on the line to get that win. Like he wasn't having the best day. I mean, he himself said that maybe we can put a little bit of an asterisk on his single season record because it happened in an 18 game season instead of or sorry, an 18-week season instead of a 17-week season. Like,
he's being so humble in that moment right there. I'm like, bro, you earned that single season record because we got other quarterbacks that didn't reach 4,000 yards and they were starters all season long.
yeah, that's true. And the thing is that he got that the first sorry Russ's like record. He set it in 2020 when he had his prime let Russ cook season, right?
Yep.
And so you can't take anything away from that. That was the best form of Russ that you just beat.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, don't. I think it's also like, I think he's still good with Russ and stuff. But it's like, come on, man. Like you had that success, especially like take that time. Because I remember, I think it was after the game, he said, I'm just gonna go out the date with my lady, and just not worry about or watch like the Lions game and stuff like that. Because like, let me just, if anything, he needs to celebrate what he did for him and of course for the team for for the season because like we can't underestimate the success that Gino had after being a backup for 7 years because I really want people to try to give an example of a quarterback that's been a backup for almost a decade comes in and starts and takes a team in a sense takes a team to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's Gino doing well this season is kind of a manifestation of a lot of things going right for us on offense. We had a lot of talent come in at tight end and offensive line that kind of just solidified us, as well as having two elite receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And the addition of like Kenneth Walker to add some semblance of a run game. We hated seeing Rashad Penny go down because, in those first 4 or 5 games that I think Rashad Penny was playing in, he was balling out, and the entire offense was feeding off of it.
Yeah, he was continuing. He
And
was continuing that same run he did like last year. He had like a hot streak, if I remember correctly, like towards the end of last season. So it was just a continuation. This is the contract year. This is the big year for Penny, right? Like
yeah,
finally. But
yeah, I wonder what's. I mean, Penny's probably going to get a small time deal with another team. I don't mind if it's us because we need all the depth we can get. Depth is depth. If it's a small deal,
he won't
but
be a starter
hope
though. I know if he stays here,
no.
he's not going to be a starter. He's at least shown that he is a starter in his own right. Now the only question is, when healthy, because like in a short span of like what, like
Tight,
three
running,
to five years.
yeah, 3 4 years. He's already had like three major injuries,
Yeah,
and and running back careers are pretty small to begin with anyway, right? So you can't discount that.
I
So
think I
if he
think he
if
has there's a market for him out there. Maybe not the hugest market to like get paid the big bucks, but there's a market for him out there. Whether it's as a change of pace back, if not the starter.
and I think with going back to Gino, I think with us making the playoffs, I think Gino collected all the incentives of his
All
contract. I think the
3.5
last
million.
all oh yeah, so that's
He had a three
chump
point. He
change compared to
basically
other
so basically
QBs.
his deal was like literally like a steal for the Seahawks this season. He had a 1 year, $3.5 million deal, and and basically he just converted it into a basically a vet, the vet
Yeah.
minimum. So
And he's going to get paid, and hopefully it's with us so that we have like that bridge period where we can build out the team and solidify everywhere, and then get that young quarterback in when the time is right.
I have a question
But
for you on that. How much would
mm,
you pay, and what kind of contract would you want with Gino? You know a
I think
contract is coming, so
yeah, we know that. I think Gino's always given that personality where he doesn't give a shit about going to the big team and making a big name for himself. He's always um, he's kind of accepted that low key kind of guy. So I can see him sticking around for maybe not a lot of money, but I could see him sticking around for a contract that's at least 75% guaranteed. The majority of the money is guaranteed for him, and he's in an environment that'll appreciate him. So I could
yeah.
see us doing like a 2 3 year deal, maybe like 20 to 25 million a year,
I think it
which is
might be a little more than that, especially with them going to playoffs, because you have to consider that they went to playoffs. Um, it's not like it's all because of Gino, but at the same time, like if they didn't make playoffs, that will also go into the contract talks. But I
I think
think
they were
it's
going
going to
to
be a
give him
high. It's
contract.
going to be higher than 25 mil a year because the minimum next year, which is like if you wanted to franchise tag him, it's like 30. It's 30.5 million. So that's gonna like I'm not trying to get into like the deep side of numbers, but I've seen ranges of like 28 to like 31 million or 25 to 31 million,
Mhm.
like that range. In terms of
Yeah,
like
so I was giving a lot of weight to the fact that his contract would be almost fully guaranteed. So $25 million a
I would
year for
love
like
if he
three
got a
years.
fully guaranteed contract. I personally would love. I want more guarantees for players in general, so I'm all for it. I'm not here for the try to be cheap for the team so the team can. No, there's enough money to go around to get who you need to get with fully guaranteed money. Because if Kirk Cousins can do it on the Vikings multiple years, it can happen anywhere else.
You like that?
You like that?
Yeah,
Oh
and
man,
so he'll earn his money, and then the other question is like, do you keep Drew Lock as a backup? That's
how much
neither
do you
here
pay
nor
him?
there.
That's the thing. How much do you pay him though?
What's a backup? What's a backup quarterback salary? Who knows, right?
well, it
Like it
can't.
could be any, like if you're Jimmy G, your backup salary is pretty big, and then you eventually come in, but it's probably in like the $5 to $10 million
I would
range,
think
isn't it?
there is a little bit of a market for Drew Lock because there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. So someone may it's not gonna be a big contract for him, but someone may say, hey, because he's a free agent, he may actually go out and look for other teams maybe. Now,
One thing I would add to that though is
yeah.
that Drew Lock hasn't thrown a single pass this season, and so that'll definitely hurt his open market value. Is that
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like, but
no one knows what they'll
I
get.
wouldn't be surprised also if Gino wanted to test free agency as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold it against him.
I mean,
One or the other we're gonna retain. I think Gino's the preference, and everybody's.
that's also why we're gonna overpay to keep him if not a fully guaranteed contract because like there's gonna be a team out there, teams like if anything like Colts among other teams that need a quarterback, and if all of a sudden is like, yeah, I'm gone from Seattle. I'm not saying like you said he's not gonna try to go to the biggest team and stuff like that, but at the same time this is his only chance, and like in his career where he's gonna make big money. This is it right here.
Yep. And
So
so it all comes down to the project and the money that's put forward. I mean, he took this team to the playoffs, so I don't really see him moving on
that's on the
because
Seahawks to give him a good contract.
yeah,
Not
and so
like QB. I wouldn't say like QB like top 10. I'll say like between QB 10, actually QB 10 at the most, QB 15 at the least in terms of like what to pay him personally.
yeah, I think that's probably fair. But for me, I mean, in terms of like the money being doled out, probably that 25, around that 25, very very close to fully guaranteed, or fully guaranteed for 3 years. I can see that kind of a contract being put on the table.
3 years, 3 years, 90 million.
3 years, yeah, 75 to 90 million, sure.
I can see that. I can see that.
Because especially I think the next season the cap is supposed to jump as well too, so it won't hurt
They
us in
say
our.
this every year. The cap's supposed to just like, especially like you said, cap's supposed to just jump, right? It's always gonna jump. So quarterbacks are going to get more expensive. That's one thing people are going to have to understand. Every position is going to get more expensive. I think the Jags told us about that with the wide receiver market. So
Well, everybody was laughing at the Jags when they did that, but I think it was the difference between them making the playoffs and
they're
not
running
making
to
the
the
playoffs.
bank with their
Yeah.
receivers.
And so, that I don't know what that contract situation is. Probably like, they're probably on the hook for next year as well, and then they can reassess and that kind of thing for Christian Kirk. But
I
it's
thought Christian Kirk already got signed to a big contract when he got there. He was on he's on a 4 year deal, if I remember
yeah, it's a
correctly.
4 year deal, but I don't know how much of it is guaranteed.
Oh, I mean, unless he wants to actually ask for a restructure. I forgot that actual deal. It was a big one. It was like what, 4 years, 70 or 80 million or something like that, if I remember correctly. Either way, they did a big thing over there with wide receiver money. But hey, they're the ones like running to the bank
Yeah,
with
I
it,
mean,
right?
that's cheap when you get in the playoffs. So
That's very true. So again, hopefully, I want Gino at least have a chance to, I want him to have a chance to at least like test the market. But if he doesn't, he wants to stay with the Seahawks because I mean, hey, in terms of like the coaching staff as well as like the system in place, I think it's going to work better for him with staying with the Seahawks. Because if he was to go, our first pick is going to change drastically.
yeah, and I think that's a good point too. The Seahawks are going to try to fast track this just so that they have some clarity come draft time what their situation is.
Facts.
Because I think they know that they have a bridge situation. Is just whether that bridge is Geno Smith or Drew Lock with Drew Lock as a backup, or
hmm
if it's Drew Lock with a drafted quarterback as a backup.
I can see. I can also see a situation. I think you might have said it. Was with like Gino with a drafted quarterback as a backup. Now the drafted quarterback in this case will just be like a very like low pick, mind you, or it could just be like we pick someone up in free agency, or
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It just kind of depends on what happens with Drew Lock.
yeah. So what overall, what do you think of like I guess the regular season of like the Seahawks then?
It was an emotional roller coaster because we started off like meh, and then we started losing, and then we started winning, and then we won a lot, and then we started going on this tailspin. But we're in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not about the result. It's about the journey you went along the way, and this journey was it was all up and down all over the place.
Oh man, it was it, especially when those close games kicked in. But we had less close games than I keep always bringing up that one season where we had nothing but close games the whole season with Russ. It was always a
Yeah,
touchdown or like a 1 to 3 point differential kind of differences. But in terms of just like seeing the team in a new light, fresh full year without Russ, a fresh full year with like I think they opened like Pete Carroll said, we're opening up the offensive playbook even more. That was like the first 4 weeks he said that like yeah we gotta open up the playbook some more because we don't want to you know be old school and stuff. He must have finally heard all of like the Pete Carroll's old jokes or something like that.
no, that was probably like a tongue in cheek comment, like because the old way is winning a lot of games right now for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, in
And
terms of like the season itself, we can say that we have a lot of hope going forward because we had how many rookies? We had three on offense
mhm.
and three
I think we had
plus on
four on
defense.
offense because we drafted a receiver, I believe, or we got it
Derek
on.
Derek Derek Young, yeah, he played some snaps towards the
hmm
end, but yeah, the mainstay starters were
Oh,
Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross and Kenneth Walker.
hmm
On defense, they were Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe figured into the rotation,
Yep.
and I feel like I'm missing one. Mike Jackson isn't really a rookie, but he's like
No, he was
a
just a new. We acquired him. All just like how we got like Noah Fant. Like Noah Fant had a pretty solid season with us as well, but he was just from the rush trade and stuff like that. So
So I'd say we had like six rookies, out of the 22 players that we had that were starters, and they all kind of balled out. And so, they are the future is bright. Just continue to add to it because we got them Broncos picks coming up. So
oh, it's going to
we
be a
got a lot we can
great
build on.
off season, and of course, with the wild card coming up, the Seahawks will be playing this Saturday. We are 10 point underdogs against the Niners, and rightly so because the Niners D line. I still remember that game and how the D line controlled pretty much how our offense was like going the whole game, and I hated that.
Yeah. So what if you were to point to some keys to this game, what do you think your keys to the game are?
We got to set the run. If we don't set the run, it's going to be a long game. we definitely didn't set the run the first time or the last two times around with the 49ers. And hopefully we can do some better. Hopefully, if they only bring four on the line, basically just protect Geno, give him time to throw, set up a run game, defense, play your heart out like you did in this last game here. Play your heart out, try to get some picks and turnovers. Oh my gosh, please watch that tight end. my lord.
Yeah, his name is George Kittle. If you're not familiar with
I
him,
didn't
he's
want to
a
say his name because
he,
I'm not trying to give him like any other like I don't know. I just don't want to give him like any juice because oh my gosh, because George Kittle, he
he's
does his
been a
thing.
beast. He's been a beast since Brock Purdy has come in.
Oh
He's
yeah.
been unreal. For me, it's got to come down to getting in Brock Purdy's face, and that's the problem that we had these first two games. And so, if you get in his face and make him rush judgment, control their run game,
Yeah.
and because the secondary had like a metamorphosis compared to last season. Even Quandre Diggs, who I was pretty down on for like 3 quarters of this season. I mean, he came off of a broken ankle last year,
Hmm.
and I think he's finally starting to get his step back because that pick he made on Van Jefferson, I mean, it was an underthrown ball, but he caught it like a wide receiver over the shoulder type of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
And
remember that.
that's some vintage Quandre Diggs. And because earlier in the season, Quandre Diggs were missing picks that were thrown right at his numbers, and everyone was like, "What's going on here?" But that pick saved our season because Van Jefferson had a clear path right to the end zone on that.
He did, and that's just something like basically our defense is gonna have to like we're gonna have to concentrate on Kittle, CMC, and Purdy. Like if it's gonna
Is
be
Debo still hurt?
who?
Debo?
Oh no, Debo's back, I believe.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people to keep track of.
Well, we
We're
can't.
almost at 11
Who
players here.
on the offense alone? We're not even talking about defense, right? But it's just that, like, if we can get those QB pressures and the sacks, that's a start. If we can limit, I would just say I would rather limit CMC and have good coverage on Kittle, and we'll just go from there. But you can't, there's going to be mismatches and stuff like with our defense and stuff like that right now, especially Jordan Brooke is out, and
Yeah.
that's like a big thing for us. Jordan Brooks out for the season. Cody Barton's the starter, and of course you got Boy Mafe comes in on for edge, and then the Tanner Muse is coming in as the second middle linebacker in our scheme. So he did pretty good in the last game too. Uh, he was serviceable. I think it's just a matter of just getting more just like how we were saying with Cody Barton throughout the season. Like he never had a full year to start,
Yeah.
so
The
um,
with the Niners, if I recall correctly, those two games they were able to establish any type of run that they wanted to establish, meaning like inside zone that bounce out wide.
yeah.
Everything was working out for them, and so taking away elements of their run game is as good as is not shouldn't be discounted is the right way of saying it.
Hmm.
Especially if you take away those runs up the middle because those are soul crushing if you're in that front seven. Take those out, force them out wide, let your linebackers clean up, and hopefully you can control that run gun because CMC is not an easy guy to wrangle down.
That's true, and that's all we can pretty much. If anything, it's weird because when we're the only team that held the Niners below 30 points on the season, the only team, even though we lost. But
Yeah.
that might also contribute to why it wasn't like over. But we didn't get blown out though. But
Hmm.
it's just one of those things. Like I think we have like a underdog chance of winning. It's just that it's going to be an uphill battle in that case. So some final stuff from the game. I have some 2 points from yeah 2 points and one from like one Seahawks fans. Uh, Other Seahawks fans have after the Lions game were donating to a lot of the player charities, and I really do love that, especially with all the support, even from like Seattle themselves. On the social media and stuff like that, that was really good. Like the Hakuna Matata like tweet they had and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was really nice. Especially if you were a Seahawk fan, you were definitely watching the Green Bay and Detroit Lions game, and yeah, that was a good game. Um, and I do have a fun fact actually.
Oh, I love them.
Here we go. So, fun fact: in 1999, the Seahawks lost their final home game, and they finished with 9 wins, and they made it to playoffs with some help, though. but they ended up only losing to Dan Marino in his final year, and we had John Kitna under center.
Man, that was a long time ago.
Oh, but we were we weren't in we were not in the NFC West though. We were in the AFC West as the fifth team.
Yeah, that's how long ago that was.
Am I old yet? I guess so. But yeah, that was like a little nice little fun fact about that as well. Finally, just this team has done a really good job. We found a core. We found like a core on both the defense, who to build around, the offense, who to build around. Pete Carroll, oldest coach in the league. I think he's like what 78, 79 right now.
No, he's 71.
Oh my gosh, I overshot it to the moon right
You saw
there.
you overshot it by a lot.
A lot, but 71, oldest coach in the league. Excuse me, Pete. Don't come and hurt me now. But he's had 10 playoff appearances. Well, he took the Seahawks to playoffs 10 times in 13 years, and that's with three different quarterbacks. So that's something. That's winning football. It's just people don't watch enough Seahawk football, of course, over the years, and
Mhm.
that is an issue. DK Metcalf and Lockett were with that 1,000-yard receivers, and finally, we had a lot of picks this season. Diggs with five, and Woolen had six. And I think he was tied, if not leading it at the time, unless someone actually got more than him than
No, I
six.
think I think the season ended with a tie, which we would have loved to see Woolen get one more and be the season leader come to the end of the season. But
He had moments, if not this game, it was like the last game too, where he like almost got a pick and stuff like that. But either way, he was there for a lot of those like disruptions and past defenses and stuff like that. So again, Woolen was just a steal, a diamond in the rough, just found in the fifth round in the draft. So you know,
I mean, we
I'm
draft
good.
cornerbacks like the Steelers draft wide receivers. Like most of the time, Steelers take wide receivers. They're not highly touted talents or anything like that. I don't know how I think George Pickens was in the first or second round, so he's probably one of the highest ones that they've ever took. But those guys always just find like random randos to come in, and then they just turn into like 1,000-yard receivers and do crazy stuff.
We didn't we do the same exact thing like with Doug Baldwin and other like either running backs, if not, oh, we definitely did it with defensive linemen like Bennett and all them too, right?
Yeah, well, those were like we're known for the afterthoughts, like
Gotcha.
people that kind of don't.
Until we won a Super Bowl and they were like, "Oh my gosh, the Seattle exists." I remember
Yeah, I
those
mean,
days.
like we go after players that people are saying like, oh, they're done. Like Doug Baldwin was an undrafted free agent that we signed,
Yeah,
and so but Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, we traded them for pennies. Quandre Diggs, we traded them for like a fourth or fifth round pick. Like these
good
guys, those are
times.
the kind of guys that come in. Anytime we go in for like the splash play, we always seem to fuck that up, like the Percy Harvin or the Jamal Adams
I
or
don't think we
Sheldon
I don't
Richardson.
think we screwed over the Jamal Adams trade because
It
especially
just hasn't panned out yet.
yeah, I'll give you that, but I just feel like it's just because we didn't utilize him how we should. Because it's weird. It's just like how we had Jimmy Graham as a tight end, but we were trying to use him as a blocking tight end when he was clearly a receiver. It's a receiving tight end from the Saints. But that reminds me of that trade there when we traded Max Unger, and that hurt my soul. And that's
Yeah,
why we have the Max Unger curse still to this day. We do need a new center,
yeah.
please.
If we're gonna jump a little bit, if we're drafting center and right guard, those are probably two of our most important needs. Obviously, don't use your number 5 overall pick for it because there's probably not the right
Wait till
player
the
out there.
second round, but we definitely need to put a lot of juice into our defense, as you can see.
Yeah, that's for sure. You want to? I don't have anything else around the Seahawks. You want to go around the league?
Let's go around the league.
All
But
right. First and foremost, we have the Damar Hamlin situation, and we give a little update on that. Discharged from hospital, on his way back to Buffalo. Seems like he's on his way to making a full recovery. It's really good to see, ain't it?
yeah, he's obviously done for the season, but he just needs to sit, just relax with the family, go and of course support the team. I know he'll be on the sideline with the team in their playoff journey, but I'm just glad he's out. I'm glad he made it. I'm just like whenever the doctors just said like, yeah, you won the game of life. I was like, you really did because the last thing we needed was a death.
Yeah, and that's I think did you ever see like how much his charity had gotten up to? Like I think I saw 8 million at one point, and then his dad came out and said like start donating to the hospital and stuff like that because
We don't need no
it's a
more.
lot of money.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money. You got to give
yeah.
him the
But if anything, he can use that money to help fund other ventures and stuff like that within charity work, of course. Because law abiding, with where that money goes.
Which
But
it's not even law abiding, just being an ethical person.
well, yeah, this is true. This is very true. So either way, that money will be in good hands. And he even said in a tweet that he realized he saw all the love that was given to him, and he wants to put that right back into the world because at the end of the day, you get back what you put in. And he even said it himself, even prior to him having that incident. So I really love that he's a really great guy. You can't ask for anything more.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. I mean, yeah, obviously he's done for the season. Um, do we think do we think he has a career after this?
Does
That's
Tua
the
have a
tough
career
question.
after this?
Huh?
Does Tua have a
That
career after this?
Tua is another question. We are talking about Damar Hamlin. Do not open up another can of worms
That is
here.
not a can
Tua,
of worms. You have one person with their heart and you have another person with their brain.
yeah, and so with Damar Hamlin, at least that's when you hit cardiac arrest like that, usually there's some damage associated with your heart muscle.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna definitely look at him for that. It's one of those things of like if it happened once, it's actually prone to happening even more so again. So that's up to him on what he wants to do with it. Um, one thing that the Buffalo Bills, ugh, one thing the Buffalo Bills did though for sure was they actually paid him fully out for that game. The game he missed.
Yeah,
Um,
because there was issue with how he was missing games because he was being put on IR and he didn't finish the season out.
yeah,
And I think
and
that they came good on their contract, right?
yeah, which basically brought up the issue in the league with what was it? Oh, you need to get like there needs to be some guarantees in those contracts, even if the contract itself of like the actual money being paid to you isn't fully guaranteed. There has to be guarantees. That's like an issue that was brought up over that because he actually wasn't really supposed to be paid. Period. Like that was it. Like he wasn't supposed to be paid, but the Bills were like, "No, we're gonna pay you out, man," because that doesn't make. Is it your fault that your heart just stopped on you on the field? No.
I think we've learned a little bit more about what ended up happening to him too. I think you touched on it last week, which was he went into cardiac arrest because like even doctors came out and said it was like a 1 in a million type of thing. Like he got hit in the chest at the exact moment like his heart was beating or something like
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
that just kind of threw off his his cardiac rhythm, and
And it
that
just
just
stopped.
yeah, and then he just stopped.
Because
And so
usually, sometimes with that, it's usually just having an irregular heartbeat, kind of like what happened with JJ Watt, which he had to actually get his heart jumped this season for. But yeah, it completely stopped. That is a 1 in a million, or like, man, it's still wild that happened.
I mean, the Bills, they rallied around him. You could see the love in that locker room because the very first play after that game against the Patriots, Naeem Hines took the kickoff back for a
Hmm.
touchdown.
Hmm.
And some people were out there were saying like NFL scripted moment, plain and simple. But nah, you gotta just appreciate
Sure, it was
the
all
moment.
scripted. It was all planned. Yeah,
Yeah, it was one of those things that if you just got to appreciate the moment, man. That was a good way for that team to come together because when they scored that ball, that was their first touchdown since Damar Hamlin got
Oh, that's true.
got taken down. So
And they
it
had
was also
what
it
was
was the
it?
first play since
Kick
Damar Hamlin
return
got taken
touchdowns,
down.
right? The kick
Yeah,
return
so
touchdowns from Naheem
yeah, that's the
Hines.
one I'm referring to. Yeah, with
Yeah.
Naeem Hines. Yeah, and so it was good to see the team come back, and they just probably rallied around that because in that game, Patriots were actually trying to play for a playoff spot. They were
I
part of
hope
that
so.
bunch. So they were in that bunch that was sitting at trying to get in on that 7 seed.
Mhm. Mhm. We know the feeling.
Yeah, it fell right for us. It didn't fall right for them.
It
Unfortunately, it
didn't.
fell right for the Dolphins, who are also very sus.
Yeah, Patriots in the short of it, like real quick, they just need to figure out what they need to do with their quarterback and not like get rid of him or anything. It was just he had a bit of a down season, in my opinion. Mac Jones did.
I think he was playing hurt. Part of it was a part of it. Maybe he didn't have the receiving options that he would like to have. But it just seemed like all the cylinders weren't clicking, and he fucking had Matt Patricia calling the plays,
The
which is
defensive
just
coach.
yeah. He was the defensive coach prior to going to the Lions, and so maybe that's obviously not the. It doesn't make sense. That's not in his area of expertise, at least in terms of his experience. And so there were even moments where people were calling Mac Jones like a brat or something like that on the sidelines because he would shout at Matt Patricia, call better fucking plays
I
or
mean, is
something.
he wrong though?
He's not wrong though,
Is he
because
wrong?
now you got guys out there like I mean I can't remember who the name was, but if there's anything that the Patriots organization has no problem doing, it's shuffling things around so that, they continue to be a well functioning organization.
I just
So
I've always felt like they, as an organization, they've always had, besides like their key moments, they've always had like a weakness at receiver. But of course, they had Tom Brady to like elevate anyone at the time.
yeah, it was kind of like the elite passers can make great receivers.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that kind of thing is probably what they're experiencing. Obviously, that's not always the case because you have guys like DeAndre Hopkins who did you could have like a paper bag at quarterback and you'd still get 10 tuds on the season.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Um, but yeah, Damar Hamlin. Glad he's out of the hospital with the family, friends, and back at with the Bills. So we hope make a good even a greater recovery. Take your rest, all that good stuff. If you come back to football, I understand because there's a lot of people that will give their life to play that game because to some people it's not necessarily as simple as quitting because sometimes this sport is literally what helps them get out of poverty. I'm not saying
Yeah,
That's not in Damar's case, but for some other football players that have mentioned it, it was their way out. It was their only
and
way out. So,
yeah,
um, I understand. So if he comes back to play, full on support, just stay protected, man.
yeah. I don't think anybody will fault you for stepping away even for like a year or two just to get right if you decide to come back. And hopefully someone will accept you with open arms. But yeah, nobody take your time, just get better one day at a time. I think that's
Hmm.
all anybody wants.
Yeah. So it's the end of the season, and with the end of the season comes a lot of change, right? You want to talk
Some
about some of
people
these
did
coaching changes that's been
some of these changes didn't even feel like they waited for the coach to get back in the locker room. They just kind of
Oh,
the coach was trying to get back in the locker room and he tried to swipe his key card. He was like,
nope.
boop, 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 boop. Like you ain't back in. Well,
No.
there've been a
Mm-mm.
lot of coaching changes. There's a lot of head coaching positions open, but we can start off with the coaching changes that are kind of are the new head coaching opportunities that are open now. So
Yeah,
first one that got the axe was Lovey Smith.
wild.
You had some thoughts on that?
I did. Real quick, only thing was like even like Tony Dungy even came out and said stuff about this as well. Like how you had 2 years. You had two different coaches in the past 2 years, and you gave them a chance, and then you cut them. It makes sense on that first one, right? It's like with Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos, but you can't just have someone come in with a little bit of fanfare. They had a little bit of fanfare for him, not too big of one, but and then you just cut him literally after. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, he got cut because he wanted to win in the Houston Texans, like the last game of the season, which cost them their number one overall pick. Which
Yeah, I was about to say that. That's probably why they probably cut him because
that's a
he didn't want
very
to.
stupid reason, and I will look at you differently as a person because if you're really sitting there as an organization, knowing all the rules that there is, of course, there's ways to get around the rules and actually tank consistently. Like, oh, let's just put our other quarterback in there. We're not really trying, but we're trying. But at the same time, I'm with Lovey Smith on like going for the win because I'm not going to just sit there and be like, yeah, let's lose because you don't even know if he was going to be. I believe he was going to be fired regardless after that final game because it actually came out that they were looking for head coaching candidates. Like right now, the age range for it is like 38 to 42, and Lovey Smith was like 60, if I remember correctly. So it's a little bit of the ageism kicking in, and like we want to get younger at coach and stuff like that because like the Sean McVay treatment, if not anything else. But I didn't like how that was handled. Because it basically made it point to like you cost us the number one over, like we actually would have kept you in the building if you just lost the game. But no, if that was the reason, if that was the case, I'm gonna go and win a football game. Screw you
Yeah,
guys.
and from an organization perspective, I think ageism is probably factored into it. I think they were probably thinking, we have the number one overall pick or number two overall pick now. Maybe it should go to someone that is going to be part of our long term vision. And I guess they probably just didn't see Lovey Smith as part of that long term vision. It kind of opens up a can of worms on the new guy that walks through the door because now the new guy is going to have a lot of pressure on him with like all
He'll have a
the
lot of picks to work with though. So
he'll have a
it's
lot
a
of picks.
bed to build up a team from scratch. That's what the Texans are offering. You got a number 2 overall pick, and I think they have some other picks to do from trades. But like I don't know. It just it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. Is what I'm trying to say with that. So
Yeah, and yeah, I guess I wouldn't say that there's a lot. Actually, I would say the opposite now that there isn't that much pressure on the new guy coming in because it's already been established that as a rebuilding organization, you have some high draft capital. Like, I mean, if the guy that comes in, they keep him for like 2 3 years, fire him again, I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like that's the Texans' MO is that they just cycle through coaches without giving them a chance to build what they're building.
that's the one thing you
So
have to consider as a head coach. Do you want to work with the Texas organization as a whole? That's one thing you have to consider with head
yeah,
coaching vacancies is like what is the status of the organization itself? Like for instance, if I was a head coach, if I was a person that wanted to be a head coach and I actually, I have a way in, like I could actually get it, I would not want to join like the Commanders, for example. I don't want
yeah.
to join the Colts, for example, because it just feels like a lot of stuff kind of going on in the back end of things. And just as an example,
Meanwhile,
though,
if like meanwhile if openings opened up, like if Mike Tomlin decided to move on or John Harbaugh decided to move on, those are two great footballing organizations that whoever comes in is going to have a lot of support and it's going to be a well-run machine. But
facts.
you look at organizations like like you said, the Texans, and the Colts. You don't have that confidence because the Colts put fucking Jeff Saturday in as interim coach.
They
So
brought him like out of the woodworks. I still believe to this day he is the most undeserving interim coach to have the position that he has. You literally like just
because look at what Steve Wilkes did for Carolina, right?
still they
Like
let him
Steve Wilkes,
go.
and they're gonna let him
He
go.
went six and
The
six in those last some number of games. Like he actually gave him a chance to get the division.
Yeah, I mean, like I think they were eliminated week 17 if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, but
yeah.
it came down to a matchup with the Bucks, and so
He
like
was on
that's
the older
pretty wild.
side, and I know that's one of the probably the reason they were just like, yeah, we can move on. I don't know if we want to rebuild a whole new team with someone. I know, like there's a front person in the front office that said it. It's just not out in the public, obviously. So
Oh yeah, for sure. The other opening that came out, I think it was this morning, was Cliff Kingsbury. We kind of saw it coming. Steve Kime or is it Steve Kime? I
Steve
think it's
Keim,
Steve Kime.
the general
The
manager,
GM,
yeah,
the GM stepped away for health reasons. What it could have been actual health reasons, but when that kind of thing happens with like, I think it happened like with 3 4 weeks left in the season, you kind of know that that organization is ready to go through some turnover. So Cliff Kingsbury's notice came in this morning, and so that coaching opportunity is open now
and
too.
Steve Keim actually, he actually told him like I'm going to actually he's actually stepping away actually from the GM position for his health now. So the GM
Is it really for
yeah,
him?
the GM position is open. So what they're going to have to do first, actually, I have an update on that too. They have to go get a GM first because the
Yeah.
GM has to go then get the head coach. But Kyler Murray and some other leaders on that team will have a say of who the head coach should be.
So that
Not like
actually
they don't have a full say, but like they actually can they have a voice, if you will.
so that with an organization doing like this, what you'll often see is like a coach come in and then the GM will come in because in terms of the GM, like they prefer that type of relationship because
Mhm.
the GM is the guy that comes out and fills the team, so they prefer to establish that team philosophy first and then find a GM that fits into that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually hire a coach that they want to hire and then find a GM that can kind of fill the needs for that coach because more often, I mean, coaches are basically like they're kind of GMs in their own right. Like a lot of the coaches are,
Now,
VPs of
but
player
now you're
personnel.
talking about what type of coach you're gonna get because there's the Bill O'Briens that try to be the Bill Belichick's, where the Bill Belichick is literally the head coach and he's the GM. It's almost like you never hear about the GM in Patriots because Bill Belichick, right?
Mhm.
Bill O'Brien, he failed hard. We're just gonna say that he fell
Actually,
hard on that.
Bill O'Brien. While we're talking about Bill O'Brien is one of the names that people are saying bring back to the Patriots because he's from the Bill Belichick tree,
I think he's
and he
on
was an
the what's he?
offensive.
He's at Alabama right now, right? As a coordinator.
Yeah, he was at Alabama or like an offensive analyst. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, he's there. It seems like I don't know why it feels like those two guys always got coaches cycling through him. Like Kyle Shanahan came through, Steve
Mm-hmm.
Sarkisian, who's now the Longhorns coach, came through him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
But
at the end of the day, though, they're gonna have to go and look for both the GM and the head coach. I know the head coach. They're gonna get some feedback from the players. So Kyler Murray's on that list and everything, of course, among other. Because that's the owner came out and was saying that at a press conference. So yeah, did y'all know that Kingsbury, got an extension prior to the beginning of this season for 5 years, and he right now will get, unless something happens to where they cancel it, He's going to keep getting a check every 2 weeks for the next 5 years. And yes, it's in the millions.
Yeah,
Not like each
that's
check, mind you. Not that each check is in the
we
millions.
how many times have we said on this podcast, ain't no job better than a fired NFL coach because you can sit on your ass and still get millions of dollars.
Yes, that, and then like he can just like, they were even like on, I remember on Good Morning Football this today, they were talking about like, oh, where could he go, like Bali, or no, he's like, I remember one of them was just like, no, Bali, that's child's play. He's gonna go to like the rich like private islands and all that type of
He's gonna
stuff.
buy an island.
I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, he his, I want to actually know his contract because I want to know how much he's gonna get paid. Because that's like,
Yeah.
I really want to know. So please sound off on the other ones. I'm just going to take a quick look for his contract, though.
Yeah, let's just go through the rest of the coaching changes that that have kind of filed through. So we talked about Lovie Smith, we talked about Cliff Kingsbury,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Vrabel fired his entire staff
Yep,
basically.
I saw
That
that.
and so I've been on the Mike Vrabel bandwagon, or not bandwagon, but fan club for a little bit because I think he's a great coach. So this is what great coaches do, just try to keep evolving and stuff like that. And so, I can see the organization and evolving and getting the right philosophy and to keep winning games because I think that's all Mike Vrabel's about. He doesn't give a shit how you win the games as long as
Mm-hmm.
you win the games. Other vacancies that are coming through. Ron Rivera fired Scott Turner, who I think is Norv Turner's son. I'd have to look that up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but he fired him as an offensive coordinator, so that opportunity is open. Um, other other opportunities that might be open, there is the one surrounding Sean McVay, and I think that's the one that's kind of really up in the air because I think if I'm not mistaken, he wants to step away from football, or he's considering stepping away from football for like the mental aspect of it, right? Like it's
Yeah,
taking its toll.
you can kind of see that like he's struggling with not just how the season went. Obviously, everyone would struggle if you were a head coach of a team that went like 5 and what was it, like, I forgot what their final record is, but like not that many wins.
Not a
um,
lot.
not many wins, but like he has some stuff that was kind of brought up. He has family in Ukraine. He lost family during this season. I think those two things took a toll on him for the season, but some people are going to see it as like, well, things got hard the year after your Super Bowl year, and you're just going to leave because, like, I forgot who, what McCourty off of a Good Morning Football was basically saying like, he's like, I'm two sides of it, which I'm actually in agreement. So he said one side was like, actually, yeah, go, go get some time off, man. You deserve it. Go and celebrate your wins, celebrate all the accolades that you got at your age, and celebrate all that. Take some time for that. The other side was like, you're gonna leave now, like in the middle, like it's, yes, it's rough right now, but like you still have like the framework to hopefully build something. Although the Rams barely have any first round picks until I think they only get their first one in 27 or 26.
Is it really that far out?
Yes, I kid you not. They were trading a lot of their first round picks. It's either 26 or 27. 20.
I didn't think you could trade that far out. I thought you could only trade out 3 years in advance.
I think it's 26, not 27. But you can check when do they have a first round pick? It's not until way far out, by the way, unless they trade somebody themselves, which I feel like they're gonna have to do because they are paying a lot of people Hollywood money, and they can't do that for everyone on that team.
No, they got their first round pick in 2024.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So it was at the time. Okay, I thought they had one like further out, but until they actually trade it away, you never know.
Yeah, and so maybe whoever comes in is just kind of have to like clench their teeth and just deal with like the ramifications because they're if you look at their 2023 draft pick situation, it's just kind of like all over the place. There's a lot of like they have this person's pick, but then they traded to this person, and then they got it from this person, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they probably have about 4 or 5 picks, I would say.
Is that first
Um,
round pick in 2024? Is it theirs or is it another team's?
no, it's all theirs.
Okay, okay, okay. I was about to say, um, but yeah, if he wants to leave and go away and do a little bit, he won't do like a full broadcasting like thing with anyone. I think it'll be like something seasonal, like maybe like all of these certain types of games on Amazon or something like that. It's okay if you want to try new things. I think we're in what one thing, this is just me now. One thing we have to also understand is like the head coaches of the league as of today are getting younger. Your GMs are getting younger. I said this before. You're going to start seeing a lot more aggressive trading like we did see prior to this season. but also you're going to see a lot of head coaches doing different things that you're not used to an NFL head coach doing, which is like maybe leaving for a year, maybe coming back, taking some like even Sean Payton did it. Like he was gone for a year, and then he's like, you know what, I might want to come back with some people as well, and then
Yeah. So Sean Payton's probably one of the most enticing coaching prospects, but you want to talk about some of the other ones that you were seeing?
I will. I got those numbers for from Cliff, as well as like a little factoid about like
Oh,
him.
it's not a fun fact this time?
No, it is a fun fact. Come on now,
Oh, come on.
factoid. But real quick, so he's getting paid. Um, it's about like what is that? 35 million in the next 5 years. So like, well, not 35, but either way, he's getting for the next 5 years. It's fully guaranteed. By the way, $7.5 million annually.
Nice.
Nice.
Ain't no job better than a fired head
Ain't
coach.
no job better than a fired NFL head. And he
Hey,
can still pay
doesn't
for his house. He can pay off that house. That house he has in Arizona. It's a nice house, by the way, with a lot of
Bro, I'm
light.
going to Scottsdale this week. The first thing I looked up when I saw that was that shit on Airbnb because I booked that right now.
Hey, Kingsbury, look, I'm a Cardinals fan. I'm lying, but I want to. I just want to take a peek inside the crib, man. But
I'm a fan of a bird team.
a fan of a bird team.
That's
You ain't lying right there.
yeah,
Um,
dude.
but
That's
yeah,
wild. That
7.5 million a year. And the fun fact is in Arizona, no head coach has lasted in that franchise for over 6 years in its 100-year history.
which is pretty wild. A, that it's been around for 100 years. B, that a guy hasn't stuck around for more than 6 years
That
every.
yeah, whether it's due to like I want to go see new things and all that stuff. Yeah, no more than 6 years. Like you have like Mike Tomlin who's been with the Steelers for 16. you
Yeah,
know,
ain't had a losing season since he's been there. So
right. But yeah, there's that. So and then after that, some other coaching changes that I've kind of seen on my end was just excuse me. So we have going back to the Texans real quick, they have the second overall pick and the 12th overall pick. So they have 2 first round picks as well. So that, like you were saying earlier, whoever is going into the Texans, you're going to have 2 first round. Basically, you have like, hey, you can build your team with a quarterback.
whose 12th round pick is that, or 12th overall pick is that?
I think it's I forgot who it was a trade. I don't have it up in front of me right now, but oh wait, yes I do. Ha 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 ha. It's
Evil laugh.
the
I have the power.
right, if my computer can actually like load the
We
thing.
actually just pretend like we're just making this up as we go along. We're just reading off a script from Chat GPT. Write me a podcast script.
Hey GPT, write me a Seahawks script on what they should do for the 49ers game.
Oh God.
um Actually, let me see. I don't even have the dang. Come on, there it is. Okay, so their 12th overall pick is from Cleveland. So that was a Deshaun Watson trade.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Deshaun. I keep forgetting that
Everyone
they
forgot
traded
about
Deshaun.
Deshaun Watson because he didn't really do much for the Browns when he came back.
Yeah, it was basically
That's why you
like
didn't even hear it from us on like the podcast, because like what has he done besides like going to games where he had no touchdowns and interceptions and stuff? Nothing noteworthy.
one would hope he hasn't assaulted anyone in recent
Right.
in recent months.
Other stuff that I saw, like most of the draft like order is set, and I think one of the things I saw was that, oh yeah, so the Browns, they fired their defensive coordinator, and they actually want to interview. They've asked the Steelers to interview the linebacker from the Steelers, the linebacker coach Brian Flores, so he has a chance to become a defensive coordinator again if that goes through. There's another
Which
one
he really deserves. He's a great defensive mind.
I know
Like
the whole thing with the NFL and that lawsuit, which I think is still out. I don't think they've ever resolved it yet, but that
you
lawsuit
kind
is
of see
still
how
out.
powerful the media is, or the NFL media engine is because we haven't heard shit about it
Yeah, because they're trying to
this
keep that
entire season. Keep it on the down low.
keep it on the down low. Look at this chaotic season that we're having. The Seahawks went to the playoffs. Woo!
I mean, like you think about it, right? Like the NFL itself is such a powerful media product in itself in
Yep.
terms of like what it offers. So like that's a lot of power to control like what news goes out and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and some final stuff was for the Seahawks. a lot of defensive backs raved about Sean Desai, who's like, or Dr. Desai, because he has a PhD, by the way, who was a past player for the Seahawks. And he's I forgot what was his special role. Oh, there it is. His special role is associate head coach for like the defense, which is like a bit of like, if it sounds weird, it
Sounds
really,
like they made up the title.
they made, if it sounds like they made a position for him, they did. And there's speculation that not for this upcoming season. So I'm not saying Pete Carroll's going to retire or something like that. It's more of some people have speculated that like maybe they're kind of like getting Sean Desai ready for that head coaching role, but that's going to be something to talk about whenever the head coaching seat opens up when Pete Carroll eventually leaves, right? So that's like some of the other news I saw a lot of firings. A lot of coordinators are either being like a lot of teams are asking other teams to see if like, hey, can we hire, or not hire, can we interview
Interview.
can we
Yeah.
interview some of your defense, your coordinators and stuff like that. I think some other big names out there. I think Jim Harbaugh might actually be in coming to the league. He's apparently the top candidate for the Broncos head coaching position alongside
Which
Sean
is kind of
Payton.
wild.
It
Like
is.
I'm kind of curious in that situation. Well, Jim Harbaugh, I don't think ever really accomplished anything during his time in Michigan. Maybe he won one of the Big Six bowls, but in terms of like what a modern accomplishment is in college football, it's
I
always
mean, he's
down to the
been bringing
national
them bowl
championship.
victories. He's been getting them bowl victories and stuff. Like they've been having winning seasons. If you're talking about like, has he brought them a national championship? They were close, but no.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is that like that's like the measure of like success at this point
Hmm.
with college football. But I think this year he was the closest he got.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
I think he's been eyeing that NFL return for a while, but I think that'll be an interesting one
Where
because
was he
I,
at?
I
Where was he
expect
at in the NFL initially? Was it the 49ers or something? Or was that his
yeah
brother?
those Niners.
Oh, it was Niners. Okay, okay, I thought it was him.
Yeah, it was the was a 2012 Super Bowl where it was Niners versus Ravens. It was the Brother Bowl.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, that's right. And then he just went to Michigan, which is his alma mater, by the way. So like he's been
Yeah,
having
he
a
played
blast over
quarterback there too, and that kind of thing. And so, I think Michigan, because being a college football coach in a lot of places, especially these big programs, is like being governor. And so,
there. They pay him too. He gets paid in millions. Like he's one of the,
oh yeah,
not like, I don't think he's like getting paid more than a certain coach in Alabama or anything like that. But
we don't say his name.
we don't say his name here. But
Sorry, this is a tangent. Did you watch the college football playoff or the
I
college football
heard
championship?
something was said to him. But can you actually? I didn't get to see it. What was it? What was said in that moment? Because I heard he gave a face.
Oh, I didn't I don't know that exact moment. That game was an absolute bloodbath, and so for players that are coming out, that's probably a great showcasing for Georgia players because it seems like a lot of those guys are going to make the NFL. But B, I felt like it felt good seeing Nick Saban on the commentators panel instead of on the sideline, just because it was killing him inside. He wanted to be on
And
that
I
sideline.
think one of the guys that was talking with him mentioned something about him missing the playoffs or something like to his face, and he could even like Nick Saban could even look him in the face. It
Yeah.
was like one of those things. And I remember someone in the comments was just like, "Watch Alabama just go undefeated next year." Now you just put fuel on the fire with Nick
Yeah,
Saban.
and Nick Saban is an absolute dictator when it comes to running that
Yeah, but
program,
that
and
man is also getting paid top five in like coaching money.
I think he's the top paid NFL or college football coach.
Yeah, if I remember, yeah. So he got an 8-year contract that was worth. This is back in August. He got an 8-year contract worth 93.6 million with an average yearly salary of 11.7 million. He gets paid more than
Yep.
some of these NFL coaches, right? But
Hmm.
it did say that like in his 2022 salary was only 10.7 million. It'll rise to 12.7 million in 29 because he has like a thing in his contract where it says you need to keep me in like within top five or top three and stuff
Yep.
like that. And I was just like, wow, you can do that. But
Yeah.
that's because he
Well,
won so many, if you're Nick Saban winning so many national championships in a short in like in a dynasty period, if you will. Also Georgia, is Georgia a new dynasty now? Because that's back to back.
they went back to back.
My man, but I think they might actually be a dynasty now. Well, a dynasty is like, when you have multiple years of success, right? So not just the two, but I
Yeah.
think it's the beginning of a dynasty for
But
Georgia.
going back to back in college football when there's 120 teams in the I mean, obviously you can't just say that all 120 teams are equal, but when there's so many teams in the college football landscape,
Hmm.
going back to back is not something to that's that I would say that's probably harder than going back to back on the Super Bowl because you have so
Apparently,
much attrition in terms of or not attrition, but players graduate. Like
yeah.
how many players did Georgia lose to the draft last year and they go back and win it? Like that's wild.
Yeah, and I think also I think they're going to open up the play. I believe they're opening up the playoff teams more to 8 instead of 4. They're switching to 18 playoffs
I
now.
heard 12, but
We'll
that might
see. That's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be nice though. That's more
I think
games.
I think the 12 I heard was because the traditional New Year's Six bowls, the bowls games that
Hmm.
were
Oh,
traditionally
I
like
see. I see. So
I think they were
basically,
trying to do something with that.
unless they make them like, if they, and this is just a whole tangent, but I love it. If they make each of those bowl games like, they just basically say, hey, number 12 and number 11 plays here, 10 and 9 play here, right? It's this bowl game. The Rose
Yep.
Bowl would be like the one below number 1 and number 2, and that's why I used to always think, even before we had the
They might
playoff system previously.
yeah, they might keep the what do you call it? The automatic bids like, the
Yeah,
Pac-12
yeah, yeah,
champion
yeah,
and the
yeah.
Big 10 champion playing the Rose Bowl kind of thing. But it'll be like they'll try to keep that tradition going, but then fill in any extra teams in as sort of like that at-large bid, right? Where you have like someone playing in like the Sugar Bowl that doesn't traditionally play in those kind of divisions.
Yeah, hopefully we get some more college football players to, or not players, but college football head coaches and and some coaches that are not head coaches coming up to the NFL, right? So I haven't heard any like, top names yet from college besides Jim Harbaugh though. But besides him, I think there's like a couple of others. I think I don't forgot their names, but regardless, the coaching roulette begins again, right? For like 5 to 6 teams, like usual. Maybe like the Rams could be included, right? So the Rams is
Yeah,
kind of
let's
like a
go through
question
those.
mark. So yeah.
Yeah, let's go through like all those head coach openings now that we kind of have a little bit of a sense.
Hmm.
Some more people might get fired. So what looks like we got 6 teams or 5 teams with maybe the Rams.
Hmm.
So we got Colts, Texans, Arizona, Panthers, Broncos, maybe Rams. Do we have like what are our thoughts on like what's the enticing opportunity for a new coach? Would
I would say Broncos.
you say Broncos?
Hmm.
They got a veteran quarterback,
You got a
not a lot of draft
franchise
cap.
quarterback that played well in his last week, really well. Like, and that was after. Well, actually, the weeks when the Broncos were playing without Nathaniel Hackett at the helm, they played a lot better. I'll actually be honest in that fact. They still got some losses, but you know,
I think that you kind of see that a lot with like coaches that get fired. There's like that new coach bounce where everybody's trying to prove like they're worth like they're worth it
hmm,
for the new guy that comes in or for the interim at least until the new guy comes in.
yeah, they don't have any
But
first round picks though. The only issue with the
no,
Broncos
they
is, oh, they have one. They have one. They just don't. They have. They
from the
lost a lot of
Dolphins.
their picks. You don't have a lot of picks in general, from the Russell Wilson trade. That is. And besides, in terms of building a team, you're going to either do it through free agency or like the few picks you can, the few picks that you have in the draft. But like Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh going there, I don't know. It depends. Do you want new, like, I wouldn't say new blood in Jim Harbaugh, but it's just been a while since he's been in the NFL. So either way, I think Broncos to me would be the more favorable option because you have a winning team right there. You have a solid defense. Um, they've been showing that they're solid all year. The offense just wasn't getting it together because compared to the Panthers, and Panthers could be like the dark horse in the list. And then Arizona is like one of the more disappointing ones with how they've
Yeah,
played. And then of course Kyler Murray had an ACL tear, so he won't really. He's going to be back towards like the end of next season. I know they're going to put him in there, but like he's not going to be the same. Colts and Texans are like two teams I don't even want to touch personally. Rams will
just
be,
because the organization's probably right. Like let's like if in terms of what we look for, like if you're even if you're trying to get a new job and whatever you're doing is you want to make sure you work for a good company and you have the responsibilities that you sign up for, right?
yes.
And so when you go into an organization like Colts and Texans, like Ron Rivera had that face on like during every press conference, like I came here thinking that I could control the show. All of a sudden, Carson Wentz is in the goddamn locker room, and I don't know what to do. And
Right.
it was one of those things, right? Because if Colts and Texans, you don't know what you're gonna get in terms of that
Especially the
organization.
Texans. They've been like their front office has been like they got rid of that one dude that, he was a priest and all that stuff and all that. And
Yeah,
it was weird times for the Texans, but it's funny because my mother's a season ticket holder, but it's just like, yeah, the Texans though, they have picks. They have multiple picks for this upcoming draft. So in a sense, you have like a blank canvas with the Texans, technically. I don't know what you're gonna get out of the organization, but
in
Colt,
term because there's a business organization while we're looking at the Texans. There's like in terms of like a footballing organization,
yeah,
there's like the football aspect of it where you're just like looking at the players, but then you also have the business side of things. The guys that run TV deals, merchandising, right, all that kind of crap. In terms of the football side of things, I think they're probably still dealing with the hangover of having Bill O'Brien as their GM. I think that kind of just royally fucked them up for a long period of time.
yeah,
Because when you lose a GM, you expect that you know, depending on the kind of GM that you have, the people that are put in place, your head scouts, your all these players, all these, people that are put in positions to keep a
facts.
good running organization, usually they can continue operating at a well enough level. But Bill O'Brien left, and that team was shit, and it continues to be shit in terms of the
They
football
were a bit
personnel side of things.
competitive until Bill O'Brien started working his GM chops, and then he actually started trading people because they were yelling at him at the
Yeah,
practice and stuff like that. And then, of course, a lot of those players went to like Arizona for for instance. We
yeah.
got Jadavian Clowney on like the cheap. We had a good, at least one decent season with
Dwayne
him.
Brown.
Dwayne Brown was the pick that like
No,
held
the,
it.
the the one that was hilarious is they traded away Dwayne Brown, and then they traded 2 first round picks to Dolphins for Laramie Tunsil.
That was funny though. That's because like he traded him. He was just like, oh shit, I need a he was like, I do
Yeah,
need
no, I
a
need to.
tackle, right? That trade
And
also
yeah,
helped set Miami up though too.
in terms of like he had it seemed like he had minimal understanding of like the quality of players out there as well. I can't remember if I don't know if this is fake news or if it's real news, but like he regularly had to like look up who players were and like figure out their stats and that kind of thing to um just to know who people are. And it didn't seem like
He tried to be a Bill Belichick, and you can't be a Bill Belichick. He tried because he was under Bill Belichick, right? Like you said, but
yeah.
he tried to be a Bill Belichick and failed hard.
Yeah, because he didn't understand all the he saw Coach Belichick, he didn't see GM Belichick, and that probably led to that
And
downfall.
his feelings, his emotions ran a lot of those GM like decisions he did, which was like trading away like because
DeAndre trading away
Hopkins
DeAndre Hopkins was like a leader on that team.
didn't he trade
He
him for like
sucked at
cheap?
Yeah, it was like a second round pick or something stupid like that.
Yeah, because
And
that was when he realized like, oh shoot, I need to actually get picks back for this, not just get them out of my hair.
yeah, and so the while we're talking about D Hop, I think I just saw right before we started recording, D Hop is um or I think the Cardinals organization is looking to move on DeAndre Hopkins. And
Well,
so that's
that makes
that's full
sense.
rebuild. Yeah, that's so that while we're looking at head coaching opportunities, Arizona is trying to shore itself up as an appealing project as well. Wouldn't you think?
How much would you? Yeah, I'm seeing it now too because I see it on Bleacher Report and stuff with him trying. Wow, they're going to try to trade him, but it makes sense because you're going to have a new GM, you're going to have a new head coach, and maybe that GM and head coach are like, these are not my guys. I don't want them. You can't really get rid of everything, but if they're going to do a clean house kind of thing, then so be it. I feel like they're going to be the ones to trade off a lot of their vet players and stuff like that, or let them go. Otherwise, they do have
They
some
got
key
some Huskies
pieces.
on they got some Huskies on defense. I wouldn't mind us picking up like Buda Baker.
They're not so like players like that. They're not gonna just trade Buda Baker or like
Yeah,
Marquise Brown and
they
stuff like that. You know,
but wide receivers do come at a premium, and so that I can
the
see
wide
them
receiver
moving on.
market did change with the Jags. We mentioned that before.
And so, but do you think they're gonna get what? What do you think they're gonna get out of it?
Well, because the Texans got what, a second and maybe something else, if maybe like a third at this
I, he,
stage.
he he's coming off of like a PED suspension in this year as well. So yeah, third, maybe fourth. Like it's still a
They'll try
good
to
pick.
bundle it maybe with a player to make it like a second round, but that's just like that's just what they have. Um, there's going to be teams that want DeAndre Hopkins. I just don't know how high they're willing to pay for. I don't think they're going to pay a first round because that's you're basically saying he's your AJ Brown for the team or something like that, right? Like the
Yeah.
Eagles. So we'll see. Um, with because if they're going to try to do it, it makes sense because they're just trying to clean house. We had a terrible season. It was bad, even with all of these players that we have. So something's not working. So we're gonna. I guess when that GM comes in, that's when they're going to start the process. That's why I'm saying they're going to get a GM first, so they can start doing these moves. Plus for the draft.
Yeah. And so that it's just about building up a project that, someone is willing to take on, like we talked about. And so, you get rid of your GM, you're kind of opening up the footballing side, the football operations side of things. And then you get all these draft capitals, you're getting
Where do you think he could go off the top of your
ooh,
head? Like any DeAndre Hopkins, where do you think he can go? Like top landing spots in your head?
Patriots is one. I think Bill Belichick actually likes DeAndre Hopkins a lot. There's been like videos of them talking on the sidelines and stuff like that, and press conferences. Bill Belichick always speaks glowingly of him.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams. What other teams would you say are
I'm gonna say
extremely
the
wide receiver
Packers.
hungry? That's a primary. That's a good place to go, but it all kind of depends on Aaron Rodgers. That's the other thing. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers is hanging him up after the season.
That's true. That's very true. Some other places I've seen
Houston
was
could do with another wide receiver.
oh hush, they ain't going back. He ain't going back to Houston.
He
I
ain't going back.
um
Dallas.
yeah, that's actually one of the teams on the list here. So the other two teams after Dallas are Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I could see him going to the Ravens. That'd be depending on the Lamar situation.
It also
I could see
depends
that
on the
being a
cap room and stuff like that because you have to remember. I think he still has his big contract, but so when I was talking about Christian Kirk with the Jags, like resetting the market and stuff, I forgot who else they paid, but they paid Christian Kirk a 4 year, $72 million deal. That this past the last off season, so it's gonna have to be like 15.5 million and stuff like that for DeAndre Hopkins. I think his contract is still going. I
Mhm.
don't think it was a contract year this year though. That's also why I think he still has another year or two. I think 2 years on his current contract. Regardless, that's going to be interesting. We'll keep watching that too, and we'll let you know when that rumor turns into actual fire, and you might get traded. So,
Yeah. The I
uh,
mean, the last team we haven't talked about, I think, is Panthers. Do you think Panthers are an interesting project?
yeah. So the Panthers were a solid team with DJ Moore and stuff like that at the core. You just got to is Sam Darnold your guy? For I don't think the GM isn't changing, so I feel like they're gonna do their thing. Whenever whoever comes in, you at least have a solid team to work on. You have a core. I don't think you need to get rid of anyone because they got rid of enough. So they're interested. They're like middle of the pack to me in like the
Yeah.
positions. I wouldn't say it's the best. It's not the worst though.
Yeah, and they kind of established that they still have some semblance of life after trading away CMC.
Hmm.
And so, from then on, they have some pieces on defense too, like Brian Burns, JC Horn, like those kind of guys. I think in terms of a project, I think Panthers might be one of the most appealing. I mean, you
You sure
you
not the
kind of got to
Texans when it's like they don't really have anything good? You can literally build your team how you want it. You don't have to like work around what's there, even if they are solid.
working around what's there isn't always bad. But if you have guys that are, like core pieces, like like you can build if Pete Carroll got fired a few years back, do you think Bobby Wagner would have been moved on?
I think they would have kept Bobby
Yeah,
still.
and so because Bobby Wagner can fit into any kind of scheme, right?
He was playing enough to where
Not
it's
any
like,
kind of scheme.
unless you're going to get like multiple first rounds or something like that out of him, which we didn't really get, but like at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what my point being is that you don't have to move on from everybody that's a star player on a team. If you
True.
have guys like J.C. Horn that are young, Brian Burns that are young. Well, I don't know how old Brian Burns is. I think he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But like guys like that you can count on to continue to lead
But
for the
let's
team.
look, you've seen teams like, Broncos and other teams gotten rid of players and stuff, whether it was for cap relief or just literally getting rid of players. So I'm not going to be surprised if like, well, no, excuse me. With Panthers, they're not going to do that. Their GM is stable. I think they have who they have. It's just a matter of getting a head coach, and
They have a
then
good amount of cap room too, I believe,
yeah,
don't they?
yeah,
So
not
they
as
can they
much
can
as
sign pieces,
not as
not
much
as much
as
as the
the
Bears,
Bears have over 100 million. They're about to
which
be the
makes you
big
wonder
free
like who's
agent
left.
team.
It makes you wonder who's left on that team if they have that much cap space.
Um, people that you just don't even know, or
Yeah,
their
probably.
names haven't been called out several times over and stuff. So that's going to be basically. I want to see how this free agency is going to go, but we have to wait till the season's over. So
Yeah. Um, coming in this offseason too, we got the draft coming up.
yep,
Now that we have week 18 in the books, we have our draft order set. And I know how much you love talking about the draft. So really quick, our draft order for, let's say, like the first six
yeah.
picks, we got the
Chicago Bears at number
Bears,
1.
Texans,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think was it Cards, and then Colts, and then uh,
Us.
Seahawks via Denver, and then the Lions via Rams, right?
Yes, correct.
So who do you see as like the most enticing prospects coming out as we get closer to that period?
Um, in my view, so the reason why I wanted the Broncos to keep on losing was because I didn't want the Cardinals to get over us because they're definitely going to take an edge because JJ Watt, retired, and that's someone you lost on the D line. So what are they gonna get in the top five? An edge or a D lineman. So,
Yeah,
for the number one overall pick with the Bears, I feel like they're going to go Will Anderson Jr. Because it's too high for an offensive. They need an offensive line. I think they're just going to buy one like the Bengals did. So because they have over $100 million, so they're going to go get an edge and build that defense up because the defense wasn't all that great either this year, and they lost like Quentin Jefferson, and I think it was Quentin Jefferson, or no, it was the they lost some key defensive players through trade, mostly
oh,
trades.
Khalil Mack was the big one this last offseason,
No,
wasn't he?
no, not the well. That yes, Khalil Mack. No, because Khalil Mack was on the. Yes, he was. He went to the Chargers, right? And then during the season, they had the trades like
Roquan Smith.
Roquan Smith, and then who was the defensive end that they traded? It was Jefferson, not Quentin Jefferson, but or was it Quentin Jefferson? Because I remember
I thought that
Roquan
was
Smith.
Khalil Mack.
No,
I
no,
didn't
there
know
was
they trade.
yeah, they traded who was it that they traded? I can look this up real quick. But they're definitely gonna go get an edge. So they're gonna go get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter if they think he's, the one, right? Whichever one they're gonna go for something like that. Best player available. Two, with the Houston Texans, they're gonna get a quarterback. I I know you need other help across like that whole line or the whole team, but yeah, you're gonna. A lot of people have been saying Bryce Young. If not any,
Bryce Young is the guy. It's CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are the names that are getting thrown around the most, I think, right?
yes, and Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky. So
Is and Stetson Bennett kind of had a good outing. I imagine his name is getting thrown in there.
it's not high. He wasn't a high quarterback to begin with. So the thing with Will Levis from Kentucky is that he was in a pro offense all four
Mm,
of his years there. So like you throw him in the NFL, he'll be good.
yeah.
So that's like something but a lot of people have been saying Bryce Young because it's not just about like the plays and stuff like that. It'll also bring the fanfare and all that stuff. Like if you need a player to bring a lot of media and stuff like that, the good media, get Bryce Young. So that's what I saw. Not sure, if unless they do something totally different, but a lot of it's been pointing towards a quarterback. uh, Cardinals, that's easy. They're going to go get an edge. So the other blue chip defensive player is Jalen Carter from Georgia, who I think had a decent game in the national championship. I didn't watch it because how are you gonna go? How are you gonna go in the halftime for that championship game at 38-7?
Yeah.
So
My dad came for dinner and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "You ain't watching the game?" And I was like, "Dad, it's 38-7." He's like, "I see why you're not watching the game."
that's not a game anymore. You're just someone just
Yeah.
getting beat, and then
Bloodbath.
it's a bloodbath, right? So,
Like I
um,
said, just on that
yeah,
subject
yeah.
again, Georgia lost so many players to the draft last season, and they went back and they won the championship. That's like unreal how good of a year over year performance they had.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
that's
anyway, you were saying
yeah. So I'm trying to see who I'm still trying to see who the Bears like the Bears either let him go or they traded him because I remember Roquan Smith was. I'm still on that. I don't know why, but either way, I don't know who it was.
I'm
But
pretty sure it was Khalil Mack, but
no,
that's
no, no, it
like
wasn't
that
Khalil
was the
Mack. It wasn't Khalil Mack. It
Robert
was
Quinn.
yes, Robert Quinn. That's who it was. Thank
Okay,
you. Not and I knew it wasn't Quentin Jefferson. It was one of those old school defensive end names. Thank you very much. So
yeah.
because that was actually bothering me. Now back to the draft. So, excuse me, Cardinals are going to get Jalen Carter. I believe that's also why I wanted the Broncos to lose. So at least we had a higher pick to get one of those, the blue chip defensive
Yeah.
players. Um, After that, you have the Colts. A lot of people have been saying quarterback. I'm going to say quarterback too, because even Sam Ellinger hasn't been working out for the Colts, or any quarterback hasn't really worked out for the Colts.
That's a tough one for me, right? Because like Ellinger hasn't really had a coach.
That's true.
He kind of we talk a lot about what makes
He
a
was a
good.
rookie though this season, so
He was a rookie, so you don't really expect much. Plus, he didn't really have any foundation to
no.
grow off of. And his the offense itself, it just seemed kind of like a haphazard thing.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if they're going to give up on Sam Ellinger, or it might be like that situation with the Cardinals a while back where they drafted Josh Rosen at like 10, and the following year they
Yeah,
drafted Kyler
that's
Murray.
what they're about to do. I think they're going to go and
But
get a quarterback. Like, well, here's the thing though.
yeah,
With quarterbacks being drafted, especially in the top 10 or top 5, you can never expect these quarterbacks to just change your not it, that's a generational talent for a quarterback to be taken in the top 5 and they just come in, start and change your team. That's why we always say Andrew Luck on this podcast because he came in for the Colts and changed that team. Is who a lot of mock drafts have been saying CJ Stroud, if not Bryce. Well, Bryce Young's going to go, so the next person up will be CJ Stroud or Will Levis. Will either of those two be like the quarterback to change everything? I don't think so. They still have some other pieces on the Colts they need to get, but with those blue chip talents like taken on the defensive side of things, I think they're going to go and get a quarterback. And because because here's the thing, they've been doing the whole 1 year vet rentals for like the past 3-4 years now, and it hasn't
they
been
have
working
so
out.
many contracts on their books for quarterbacks that that they just signed and then immediately trade away. Like they're still paying Carson Wentz, aren't they?
I think so. I think so. But like, regardless, at the end of the day, even if they don't go quarterback, they can always do the best player available kind of thing. But in this case, I feel like both the Texans and the Colts are gonna go and go get a quarterback now. For these top six teams, I've been hearing that the Colts will try to trade for the number one pick because
Do you think they would trade up?
yes, because Houston's not number one anymore. That means number one's open with a team. Because if the Bears were to trade down, they can still, if not Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, if they go down to 4, you can still go and get a good edge in Miles Murphy or something like that.
No,
Um,
if
or
they
actually, no,
go down to 4,
they
can
could
still
still
get
get one of them. Yeah, yeah, they could still get one
yeah.
of them because the Cardinals might actually go for the edge at that point, if not because I feel like if Will Anderson Jr. is not there, go get Jalen Carter, right? If Jalen Carter's
Yeah.
not there, go get Miles Murphy from Clemson, that's what the Seahawks pick I would like for it to be. But yeah, I've heard rumors that the Colts are going to try to trade up. That's like one trade that could benefit the Chicago Bears because I know they're before they even make that pick, they're just going to be like, okay, we're going to list some offers. The Colts want to hop skip over their rivals in the Houston Texans, so go get Bryce Young if they wanted Bryce Young. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young's gonna have so his work cut out for him, but that's actually a good. I can see that happening. And then Cardinals would just add some draft capital and just accelerate their rebuild. It'd probably be a smart move if that's what if they're agnostic, given how things have shaken out. If they're agnostic as to whether they want Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr., like
They'll just take
that's
whoever's there. That's why they're not going to move. If I was them, I would just stay right there unless like you want to trade down for more picks. That's understandable. That's a
yep,
scenario that can happen for any team that's quarterback hungry. So for instance, if Colts were to trade up for number 1, then you have the Houston Texans at 2. Maybe the Raiders will try. I see the Raiders at number 7. I wasn't going to go that far, but Raiders at 7 could potentially trade up. It's going to be harder for teams below the Raiders to try to trade up for like those top 2 picks or 3 picks really.
yeah.
Anywho, that's it for like pretty much like the top 4 in a potential trade. Number 5, you have the Seahawks because of the Broncos pick, right? A lot of people have been saying Miles Murphy now, and I've been looking at a lot of film from him. Even caught like his because Clemson had actually a good D line. Some people are stating that they had like one of the best D line in college football. Granted, this was like beginning of the season, if not during the middle and stuff, because obviously you don't see him in the national championships this season. So I think we should go for Miles Murphy. I've looked at him. He's not. It says edge, but he was like that off ball. Like basically, Miles Murphy is also someone you can put beside Brooks. Um, and sometimes he can be on the line, but more than likely he's an offline edge player, if you will, the off ball linebacker, if you will. But he can definitely zoom across the field like Nwosu. and he's big. He's 6'5", 275, by the way. So
That is a large
that
man.
is a large man, and he moves really fast on the field. Like if you should go watch those highlights if you haven't seen them. I'll even send you a link after this podcast recording. So for
Oh, I
sure,
love homework.
we love homework. But yeah, so Miles Murphy looks really good. That's a solid addition. He had 40 for Miles Murphy. He had 40 tackles, 40 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble for the season. And it's funny because CJ Stroud had a better season than Bryce Young. By the way, like more yards, 3,688 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 100. And if everyone cares about QB ratings, 177.7 compared to Bryce Young's 163.2. Why is Bryce Young over CJ Stroud? Because Alabama.
Yeah.
Let's be.
Alabama's kind of had a good
And then Ohio
track
State's going
record
to
with
be like that
quarterbacks lately.
close. Either Ohio State or Ohio State would be like a close second or third, if you will. So if not Georgia, but Georgia's QB isn't that high, even though he's 25, I believe. So
Yeah, he's basically. I mean, it fall right into the Colts' mo if they drafted an old
they're not going to
quarterback.
draft. They're not going to draft him. If they draft him at 4,
No.
actually, that would be like on brand for stupid decisions by the Colts, though. So if that
Yeah.
happens, we have to celebrate. Shots. We'll have shots. That's what we'll do. But
I did not commit to this.
but so after 5, you have the Lions at 6. That's saying a lot of like I've
Oh wait,
seen.
going back to Seahawks, you were saying that we would probably go Miles Murphy.
Yeah, Miles. To me, I
Okay.
would love it if we go Miles Murphy. Basically, we need a some edge player on the defensive line. We need like the
Okay.
first 2 picks for the Seahawks. We need to build that defense. I think offense is good enough. You can use late picks to maybe get another receiver to find that wide receiver 4, or even a potential like Tyler Lockett like replacement because Tyler Lockett is getting older and then those injuries are stacking up. Especially when he had the broken hand. He was playing through these last 2 games with a broken hand with like plates and stuff in it. So top 6 though, the final 6 team is the Detroit Lions from the Rams pick, and yeah, they got Tyree Wilson. Well, I've seen Tyree Wilson or an edge. Basically, like I've seen a lot of people saying like either Detroit needs to basically just build up their defense because they had issues on defense besides their D line. They have 2 young, like 2 very like rookie. They had 2 rookie edge rushers and James Houston the fourth and Aiden Hutchinson, of course. They were just so successful. So they were just basically saying put someone in the middle and you have a great D line to build off of, or
Yeah, that seems like the Dan Campbell like strategy, right? I can imagine that guy like just filling out that defense year after year after
yeah,
year and just continually cycling
they
in
have
all
their
these like
quarterback
guys
in
that are
Jared
dogs.
Goff. They literally said we are backing up Jared Goff, and Jared Goff had a good streak in his last like 9 games, by the way.
Yeah, the play action god.
Yeah, he had 15 touchdowns with no interception in his last like that's like the only stat you need to know in like his last 9 games. So like
Yep.
they basically they said they have a quarterback in him, and I feel like Jared Goff still has a lot left in the tank to give to the Detroit Lions. So I've seen other mock drafts kind of say the Lions should go after a corner because Jeff Okuda is that's one thing. It's almost like he was like milk toast. Not like he was bad, but he wasn't great either. So
Mm.
like I've seen some people say they should go after like I think either Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback from I forgot what school he's in. It's not Clemson. It's Oregon. There we go. Yeah, Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, or Joey Porter Jr. Some other people are saying that. Either way, I've seen a lot of people say either corner or defensive line. So
Yeah, that makes
that's the
sense for
top
them.
6. For the other Seahawks pick that we have right now, it's sitting at 20. If we were to lose in the wild card, it'll be at 20. A lot of people have been saying linebacker, and one was Trenton Simpson from Clemson. So if we, it'll be funny if we get both Miles Murphy and Trenton Simpson from Clemson.
The Clemson tandem.
Yeah, because like I was looking at both Miles Murphy will be on the edge. He's I might have had it mixed up. This is my fault. Miles Murphy is down on the line sometimes, but sometimes off. But then if you get Trenton Simpson at the linebacker, oh man, Trenton Simpson he's also a rocket. Actually, they're both rockets in terms of their speed and stuff. Like they're honestly, I've looked at both. I thought they were the same player for a second. I was just like, oh my gosh, if we got both of them, that's
Be
the
unreal.
core. That is the core
Yeah,
for the for Seahawks. But what about you, man?
yeah. No, those pretty much line up exactly like with what I was saying. At least for the top five, I hadn't gone beyond top five because what usually ends up happening is that a lot of these guys will come out of the woodworks and have good combines, bad combines, and stuff like that. But top five, I think, yeah. The only thing is, I thought that C.J. Stroud would go over Bryce Young,
A
but
lot of mock
other than
drafts even before. It's weird. A lot of
it's just
mock
like
drafts
50-50.
have been like Bryce. Oh, have you seen some where CJ Stroud went first before Bryce Young? I've seen Bryce Young at number 1 and number 2 all the time. This whole almost for like the
all the
second
time.
half of this season.
I think, yeah, kind of. It's tough, but I think in terms of like running with a pro style caliber team, like CJ Stroud kind of had like that offense that was similar to pro style. I mean, I'm not saying that Alabama wasn't pro style offense, obviously, but
Wait,
when he
CJ,
was
you talking about CJ Stroud? He's at Ohio State, unless you mean Bryce
no,
Young.
no, no, yes, what I'm saying is that CJ Stroud at Ohio State was lining up behind like pro caliber linemen and that kind of thing and running a pro style offense. And not and what I was saying was that not saying that Bryce Young isn't running the same kind of thing over at Alabama, but the games that I've seen out of CJ Stroud looked like he was really comfortable sitting in the pocket and throwing those deep balls
Yeah,
and
I
that
heard he
kind of
had
thing.
a good like late, especially at the bowl game or even in the playoffs. He played really well too, even though they lost. But
Yeah, yeah, he actually he consistently balls out, and they probably, I mean, that might be the Ohio State effect, having all those linemen in front of you
mhm.
and playing in the Big Ten and that kind of thing. But it looked like he was really comfortable behind that line, and his like technique with like throwing the ball and all that
So
looked pretty solid. So
So
I was thinking that
besides those two quarterbacks, take a look at Will Levis then, because that's the one that a lot of people have been saying that he literally plays in a pro style offense. Like literally, like if it was in the NFL, that would be the offense kind of thing.
who coaches Kentucky now? I thought someone famous Kentucky, well,
Not that I know of.
notable.
I didn't really watch Kentucky this season, but Will Levis didn't have like a
Mark
great.
Stoops.
Okay, okay.
I think it was one of Bob Stoops' like his brother or something like
Mm.
that.
But yeah, so Will Levis has been in there as like he's a little bit raw, but not like athletic really raw, but like he's been behind like a pro style offense stuff for all 4 of his years, so he's very familiar with playing in a pro offense. He has all of like he's 6'6", or not 6'6", excuse me, he's 6'3", and tall. Like he basically has like the basic stuff you want from a quarterback. And again, for the audience out there, you never know if a number 1 or a number 2 pick will work out in general. Like sometimes those number 1 and number 2 picks do, sometimes they don't. If you all remember the one draft where they had Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota at 1 and 2, neither of them unfortunately worked out.
Yeah.
Maybe like they had like their hot spots, but they eventually just mostly didn't work out. So you never know. Will Anderson Jr. go at number 1, or is it going to be like 2 quarterbacks? Someone trades up, right? So either way, that's just something to keep an eye on. And one funny one I saw was the Jets, since their pick is at 13. I've seen a lot of Jets. It switched from like a player, a skill position to a quarterback with Anthony Richardson from Florida. So that's interesting. But it's not.
Oh, that
I wouldn't be. I'm not blaming them if they go and draft a quarterback, because they looked at all their quarterbacks. Literally looked at all their quarterbacks this season and said, "Nah,
No, I'm good.
nah."
Yeah, the thing is like we're gonna see a lot of movement leading up to the draft, and I think that'll dictate what happens because you never know. The Colts might continue to follow their trend and go after Derek Carr or something like that, and just
Facts.
continue getting older quarterbacks. But yeah, in terms of at least the quarterbacks that are coming out, I was saying C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young.
Yeah,
But
I've seen that too. I'm even looking at like if you just look at stats and you want to be a stat guy, he has better stats than Bryce Young. But I know it's all about what you see on the field, what
yeah,
situations, who they faced, and stuff like that. So
yeah, and you hit the nail on the head when you said it's kind of a crapshoot when you have because right now I kind of see C.J. Stroud. I have C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young, but it's kind of like barely.
yeah, but
Like it's like 1A and 1B
but
kind of
you have
thing.
to always not always. Excuse me. This is also I've been trying to also get out, and I just remembered. This is what I said. Like just I remember I said this to you like on Discord a while back. So for a quarterback to succeed, a young quarterback coming into the NFL, they need like I would say like three, maybe four things. So like the three would be like you need a good organization, like a solid organization as a foundation to like you have support and all that stuff and all that, you know. The next would be like a head coach that's willing to support that young player and not just be like, I don't want that quarterback. No, you know, have a coach that's willing to help support that player and build an offense around that player. Because you can't just have I have my offense, even though it's a pass, you know, a pass heavy offense for a you know a scrambling quarterback. You're going to use that pass heavy offense. Finally, it would be the last part I would think is like the system in place. Like what kind of like if like the head coach doesn't work out, do they have an offensive playbook system or like some type of like play call system for that quarterback and stuff? You need those three things for any young quarterback to succeed. And if you want the fourth thing, longevity at the head coaching position.
So you're saying that C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are in peril because the top two organizations that are going to go after them are the Colts and the Texans.
Yep. Well, I would. It's weird because, like, if you had to choose, okay, so if you were a quarterback coming into the draft, I know you don't really have a choice, but if you had a choice between those two, who would which one of those two teams you would go to?
Oh, fuck. That's why are you asking hard questions? Um, I would probably say maybe Texans. I don't know.
I think Texans is like, especially with what the Colts went through this season, you know, from the
Yeah, it's
owner and
just
down. I think you would rather just take your like just work with the Texans. Plus, it's Houston. I prefer Houston over Indianapolis personally.
yeah.
So,
Well, you kind of grew up there, didn't you?
um, I
You
definitely
spent
went
some years there.
spent some years there. Yeah, spent
Yeah.
some years down there. Alma mater's at Prairie View, so that's right outside of Houston. So you know, shout out to PV. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that works out. I hope you know if both these quarterbacks get in, I want them to be successful regardless. At the end of the day,
Oh, for sure.
did you have any other, I guess, thoughts on the top five or six? Like if anything else could happen? I think the only potential trades I can see is either the Colts or the Raiders trying to move up for a quarterback, but that's about it.
Yeah, and so with regards to like what I was just saying about like if the Colts go after Derek Carr or if Houston goes after Derek Carr, because we've talked
Oh
about how
shoot,
Houston that there's
free
that Houston
agency,
connection
right?
there too. And so, you know, that'll throw a wrench into everything because if one of them, I think it'll be an interesting situation because if one of those teams do go after it, all of a sudden you have a top five pick with two viable quarterbacks on the board.
Yeah,
And so, you know, some team will pay, you know, an arm and a leg for that, and you could continue to build out your team. But you would really have to look at, you know, like Derek Carr is kind of like your bridge quarterback at that point. And so, you know, they're obviously going to have to give up capital to get Derek Carr.
I thought Derek
And it's just,
Carr. I know he said he left the team, but is he still on contract with them through?
I believe so. I think he's on contract. He needs to be traded if they wanted to kind of get rid of him, essentially.
I so the thing with the Colts though is Jim Irsay himself said we're done trying to put a band-aid on the QB. Like after I think it was after they got or right before or after they got Matt Ryan. Like we're done putting no, it was before. We're done putting like a band-aid on this position, or if it was I know he did say you can quote him on that. So that's why I have to hold him to it. If you're done putting a band-aid on the quarterback position, which it means like you're just going to go out and keep trading or just acquire a high-toted vet QB and it's still not working out, I think they're just going to stay the course and just try to get a rookie quarterback at this point.
Yeah, but that's such a vague statement too, because then maybe they're like Derek Carr is the future. It's not a band-aid.
Okay, you can go with Derek Carr, but don't be mad if like things don't work out because you can't even like
Yeah,
keep you don't even know who your head coach is either.
yeah. That's the. I think the fact that Jim Irsay put Jeff Saturday in as head coach might scare away some people because if an it, like a lot of coaches don't want any involvement from their owner. Like Robert Kraft is considered a great owner for the Patriots. Doesn't actually get involved a lot, and he did when he did get involved, it was probably through
When
Tom
most of your
Brady, and
years
that's
you have Tom Brady at the helm getting you so many Super Bowls, why get in the way of Bill Belichick?
yeah, and that's obviously the case. But then you also have guys like Jerry Jones who are very involved in the operations of
We don't
their
talk about
of
though.
it.
We don't talk about that
Uh,
franchise here.
and so the point being is that like
Yeah.
for a prospective coach to come in, you know, having Jim Irsay as your owner is kind of nerve wracking.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
But I don't have anything else to say on the draft picks. I'm kind of looking forward to like the combines and stuff like that because I still remember the year Khalil Mack came out of nowhere from Buffalo
Yeah. Yeah.
and like just cleaned out the combine and just I think went number 2 overall or something like that.
I know I said it on the last episode or before. Like, we should definitely try to do a mock draft and just post that one at some point.
Yeah, you had that website. We'll do it
Mm-hmm.
one of these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
But
ready to talk about, I
it,
guess, the Week 18 games at this point, then, my friend.
yeah, let's rattle through these pretty quick.
Yep, yep. Chiefs at Raiders, 31-13 Chiefs. I mean, you got it right. I just wanted chaos. I wanted the Raiders to actually like fend for themselves, but we're not going to talk about the disrespectful, play, especially the one play
You don't
I'm
want to
going to
talk
talk
about
with the
you
Chiefs.
when you go ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies. Me and my niece play that game all the damn time. There ain't nothing wrong with
It's
that.
really funny that like they got a flag for that one too, but then they still said, "Okay, that's fine. We'll just run a regular play and still score."
Yeah, they still got a touchdown. That was shit housing at its best this season. That's one of the most trolly plays ever.
Raiders just got to take that time to rebuild to go after the Chiefs at this point, because that's your goal. You have to beat Patrick Mahomes. I know everyone thinks about it in that particular division, which is why a lot of them were getting a lot of edge people
Yeah, and
prior.
the only thing that's you got to support Josh McDaniels because if you hire a coach, you hire the vision that the coach has, and if you're
Support
Mark
Josh
Davis,
McDaniels. They just can't fire him because their money broke.
their money broke. But that's the thing I was gonna say was that Mark Davis is the owner, and he's just kind of dealing with a lot of shit with like the money situation, and that'll make or break whether this is going to be a successful tenure for Josh McDaniels,
Yeah,
is if they can sort that out.
yeah, that's all. That's the only thing you can do, right? So hopefully the Raiders can get it together. Next up, we got the Titans at Jaguars, 2016 Jags. We were both right. It was a do or die kind of thing for both teams, but at the end of the day, I felt like Titans just didn't have a complete team personally, and it kind of shown itself in this game.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like the manifestation of how injuries have taken its toll on the Titans
It's
because
like
they still had.
the second season where they had like so many injuries racked them up too.
Yeah, and they had Joshua Dobbs. I think
Yeah.
that's his name.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's his name. They had him at quarterback, and you don't expect him to go out there and win you the
He was
game because
actually
that's what
pretty.
it
He
kind
was
of
pretty
came down
good.
to.
He was doing pretty good in the
He was
last two
good, but
games.
what I mean is that you don't expect him to go out there and win the game for you, and that's what it ended up being is that like they had a crucial fourth down, and he threw a check down, and basically like gave it no shot of converting that fourth down and ended the game for them.
Just depends on what he saw out there.
Yeah,
Jags, I like how they just been on a little bit of a hot streak, and they're in the playoffs now, so we'll see how they do.
for sure.
Bucks at Falcons, 30-17 Falcons, and we were both right with that one because you know the Bucks have nothing to play for.
They really had nothing to play for. I think Tom Brady was out there for like half the game, and then they subbed him out for whoever the bench players
But
were.
Desmond
But
Ritter, though,
Desmond Ritter had 224 yards, 2 tuds, solid day. If you're an Atlanta fan, something to look forward to next year because they follow in the playbook that a lot of teams are following, which is if you draft a middle round or middle, yeah, because I think Desmond Ritter went in like the third round or
I
fourth
mean,
round.
everyone's
He
trying
went,
to do the Patrick Mahomes treatment where they get a quarterback, and if they can, put him like behind a competent quarterback
yeah,
for like at least a year.
and that was Marcus Mariota for the team for this offseason. So
Eh.
that's what. Yeah, I mean they won some games.
They did.
They were still in
That
contention
whole
for their
division
division for a
was
while.
boo boo, even though we lost against all of them. That whole division is
Yeah.
boo boo.
Yeah, we lost against all of them. That's the takeaway. You're asking me like what I thought about our season. That's what I was actually thinking. We lost to the fucking entire NFC South and the Raiders, 5 of the worst teams in this in the league.
Yeah, man. So there's not much else. The Falcons, they have to rebuild, but at least they've shown some stuff in this season to at least give Falcons fans hope and, to not choke. So next up, Patriots at Bills, 35-23 Bills. We were both right. This was basically the game where like Naheem Hines had like 2 kickoff return touchdowns, and like even Josh Allen was like, I cannot believe it. How did this happen? Wow. And he was even saying it was like the man upstairs. That's the man upstairs right there. So that was actually a
Yeah.
nice little game, and we were saying this earlier. Patriots were really trying to play for something, but I feel like they've had the little bit of quarterback troubles too, like how the Jets did, but not as hard as rough as the Jets. But injuries, like you said, playing through injuries, that might have been um, what happened with Mac Jones. So, but yeah, they
Yeah,
go ahead.
it was a weird one because like you would think you kind of expected the Bills to come in and run over him, but I mean the Patriots held the lead in the second half, weren't able to convert it into a win. Patriots needed this game to go into the into the playoffs, right? Because they're in that kind of shuffle for that 7 seed for um, the AFC, and that's probably going to sit wrong with a lot of Patriots fans is that they didn't actually like the way they lost, right? Like
Yeah.
I think it's not something that they're accustomed to. The way that
We're
the
not
way that this kind of
what
went
is
out.
we're not going to the playoffs? We have to sit and watch the playoffs without our
Yeah,
team?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's next year. I think it's just because they fucking decided to put Matt Patricia in as offensive coordinator, but that's just me.
It's
But
funny because he's a defensive-minded coach. Wasn't he a defensive coordinator for them previously? He was a
yeah,
defensive
he was defensive coordinator, and Josh McDaniels was offensive coordinator, and then
ah,
Matt Patricia went to coach the Lions, and then
they
got
just
fired from the
Bill
Lions.
Belichick just said, "Screw it. Go ahead."
Yeah,
Next up, we have Vikings at Bears, 29-13 Vikings. Justin Fields. Yeah, he was benched. There's not much else to talk about with this game because it was just like Justin Fields had he had an injury. I know he was playing injured. I know he was.
yeah.
So
You don't play the way like Justin Fields plays and come out whole.
or
It,
the fact
it
that he has no O line and he was like basically
yeah.
Burrows last year and getting hit a lot. Was it last year or this season before where he was getting? No, it was last year too.
It was last year.
Yeah, yeah. So they need to
He was getting
go.
killed.
Yeah, they have over 100 million and have over 100 million and $110 million to spend in the offseason, so they can at least go buy a decent O line for him.
Yeah, the funny thing about this game was like they had Nathan Peterman and Tim Boyle in at quarterback. Some of the picks were so bad that you'd be convinced that they were trying to throw the game, like literally like throwing it directly at a Vikings player and with no Bears receiver in the immediate
This is one of
like
those
vicinity.
moments where this is how you can kind of get away with we're not really tanking, we're tanking.
We're tanking. Yeah,
I mean, what does Justin Fields have to play for it? Because I don't think he was actually I don't think it was an injury scratch or anything like that either. So I think this is one of those moments where they got away with yeah, we're trying to get that number one pick.
yeah.
Although they could have stayed at number two, honestly. Ravens next game. Ravens at Bengals, 27-16 Bengals. We were both right in this one. Yeah, you got anything on that game?
Not much. Ravens had Anthony Brown out there who he had 286 yards passing, which is good, but also threw 2 picks. So Bengals weren't spectacular. They just made sure to capitalize on their mistakes.
Nothing wrong with that. I know they were just basically prepping for that playoff journey as well.
I think the Bengals closed the season on a 10-game win streak, right?
Oh, I
Bengals
think
and
so.
Niners both
Yeah,
both closed the season on 10-game win
yeah,
streaks.
yeah. They did. Um, yeah, they did pretty much. And I think did they already yeah, they already had the weird way. I forgot who it was. Someone had a celebration where they brought you know Roger Goodell's face on a coin with a clown face on it because it's a flip of a coin to decide who gets what. I think it was at the It was at the Ravens and Bengals
Yeah,
game.
if they were to play each other, that would have decided who had
Stupid.
the home game, which is stupid.
Yeah. Next up, Texans at Colts, 32-31 Texans. We were both right, and really just because that it was like a Hail Mary that just
We wanted chaos. That's all we
that
wanted.
was chaos, and we got chaos because man, that was definitely the best game of the Sunday morning lineup. But of course, some people say the Texans screw themselves out of the top pick, while I say I'm just out here
Always
to
win.
win. Always win, man. Always try to
Always
win
win.
because it's gonna
Hey, if it wasn't for that mentality, we wouldn't be going to the playoffs thanks to the Lions. So
bam. So let's see what the Texans do, or if someone tries to trade up for that number one spot over with the Bears, because no one was going to trade. I know Texans weren't going to trade the number one overall pick; they needed it.
yeah, for sure.
Next up, Jets at Dolphins, the most boring game ever, 11-6 Dolphins. We were both wrong.
Yeah, I that was a waste of time. I mean, like the Dolphins were fielding Skylar Thompson out there at quarterback with injuries to Tua and Teddy Bridgewater,
Jets have nothing but
but
backup quarterbacks, and that's everybody.
Jets have nothing backup quarterbacks. It was like the score line. They basically won on a game-winning field goal. I mean, they got a safety in the end, but that's when they were trying to throw doing laterals and
So
that
the,
kind of
the
shit.
actual score was 9-6.
Yeah, the actual score was 9-6. And
Man,
so if you bought tickets to that game, congrats. You didn't see any touchdowns.
that's terrible too, especially for both fan bases of for those. It's what happened? We were on fire, even though the Dolphins are going to the
No,
playoffs.
100%. We were talking about it, I think, in the last podcast, right? It seemed there's like a lot of teams that like peaked at the midseason point, and a lot of teams that bottomed at the mid-season point, like teams like us, Titans, Jets,
Dolphins.
Dolphins. Who?
Oh, I said Dolphins too, so I also
Oh,
agree.
Dolphins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a big one
yeah,
was Dolphins because they have all those pieces and they still like well, I know the reason why they also went down because of the concussions on Tua. That's part of
Well,
it.
yeah, yeah, that is. But even games where Tua was healthy though, Tua wasn't out for all 6 of those games.
I know
But
he yeah,
unless you mean like
he
the
played through a
concussions from the
concussion, remember?
yeah, 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 yeah. There was that game too. Which time? Because it happened so many times.
3 concussions in 1 season. I want you to remember this, 3 concussions in 1 season.
I have a feeling we're gonna look back on this like season and say, yeah, that's where Tua did screwed himself like or like messed himself up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, other than that, this game was boring. I hope you didn't watch it. If you're a Jets and Dolphins fan, hopefully,
Congrats, Dolphins! You're going to the playoffs, and you're probably gonna get bounced in the first round too.
yeah, let's just be honest. If because I heard Tua still hasn't practiced yet, and he's not cleared for any football related
Yeah, they're gonna come
activities.
up with some magical reason to put Tua on the field.
Of
Watch.
course they will. Next game, Panthers at Saints, 10-7 Panthers. We were both wrong. I didn't watch
But this
anything on this one.
I mean, the game came down to another field goal. I don't give a crap if I'm wrong. Seahawks are going to the playoffs. That's all I give a shit about.
Seahawks in the
But
playoffs.
Panthers and Saints. I mean, there's not really much to take home from this game. I think
I'm just curious of what's going to happen
Sam
with the Saints in the offseason. That's it.
first thing I've seen with the Saints in the offseason is that they're restructuring Michael Thomas's deal so they can release him. And I think Michael Thomas has also agreed to it just so that it's a
He didn't
clean
like being
separation,
on the
that kind of thing.
Saints either. So
And they're not on the hook for paying him a lot of money, so that way I think they're going to have a way to at least bring more players in and that kind of thing.
they had to do that
So
because they're literally like in the red. I think they're actually negative in
they
cap.
don't have a first round pick this year because remember it goes to the Eagles.
No,
So
that too, but I'm talking about their cap
oh yeah,
situation.
yeah, their
They're
cap
in the red.
situation. Yeah, they have a messed up cap
That's why I'm saying they have
situation.
to actually let a lot of players go. Like they're gonna literally clean house. It's gonna be funny.
Yeah,
Next up we got Browns at Steelers, 28-14 Steelers. We were both right. And Mike Tomlin, 16 straight seasons of winning. No
yeah,
losing seasons.
never lost.
Because people thought this season was gonna be the season, but Mike Tomlin said nope.
Nope. Because I mean they didn't look like it, but then Kenny Pickett kind of just rounded out. I mean I didn't watch this game because I don't really have anything at stake in this one. This was one of those games where it was just like a formality at this point.
Yeah, and
I don't
the
think
Browns are a
I think
forgotten team at this point too.
And I think the Steelers are already out of playoff contention because
Yes.
of tiebreakers and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
they ended at 9-8, just like a lot of other teams. But
Hey, 9-8's 9-8 though, and you can at least say with Kenny Pickett if you have the one or if they're not the one. So next
yeah,
up, we got Giants at Eagles, 22-16 Eagles. We were both right. Giants had nothing to play for in this one. And then Jalen Hurts, he was back, and yeah, it was a good game for them. They just needed the win, and that's all they really needed. No injuries
yeah, they
either.
would. I think they would have preferred getting that win, last week or the week before, so Jalen could have sat out this week as well. But at the end of the day, that first round bye could be a difference maker for a lot of these teams.
Or maybe use it as a tune-up because he was out for already like what 2 or
Yeah,
2
that's
weeks
true.
prior. So at least use it as a tune-up before getting into the playoffs. Or did they still have the number 1 seed, or did that
Yeah,
get?
they have the number one
Oh,
seed,
so they
so
still
that's
got a
why I
bye
think that.
too. As long as he didn't get
Yeah, they got a
injured.
bye.
So
Yeah, and I mean, we're skipping ahead a little bit, but we can do it a little bit out of order. But that was a main storyline that came out of that Chargers at Broncos game. That game ended 31-28. We wish it ended the other way, that
yeah,
the Broncos lost, but the Broncos won. So we both got
damn
that
you
one wrong.
Broncos.
But the main storyline out of that game was that Brandon Staley played all of his first team, which is kind of a risky maneuver. I don't know what the playoff seeding
Ooh,
ramifications were,
I seen that.
and so
Mike Williams
and
definitely
Joe
had an injury too. I saw that as well.
Yeah, Mike Williams got carted off with a back injury, and Joey Bosa was like limping. And I think he had just come back from IR for was it a groin injury?
Could
He
be.
had some
Yeah,
serious
it was
injury.
groin. I think it was a groin injury. I think so. That is
So now everybody's like, Brandon Staley, what the fuck? Like now, we're limping into the playoffs.
well, Mike Williams, I heard, is set to actually come back this upcoming week. How good? If he's 100%, don't know. Not sure about Joey Bosa. This is like stuff I've heard around the league as well. And then just I also heard Brandon Staley's in the hot seat too.
Yeah.
So if he
Well,
were, I've heard him and just getting a little bit ahead. I'm not going to talk about the Cowboys game yet, but if McCarthy and Brandon Staley were to lose in the wild card, just saying
yeah.
they can actually be gone too.
Yeah, and my yeah, it's one of those things, right? Because it'll be tough because you got Justin Herbert there, and how much. I mean, Justin Herbert is playing well. I don't know how much of it you can attribute to Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley is obviously a defensive-minded coach, but it's still that environment that um, allows Herbert to flourish, right? And so
Yep, yep.
I don't know how much at risk Brandon Staley is, but he is. I mean, they went win now with their last off season kind of thing
True, true, true,
because
true.
with the pieces that they went and got like Khalil Herbert and J.C. Jackson and those guys.
Well, yeah, and that's Khalil Mack for sure. Like that's the reason why I feel like he's in the hot seat a little bit. Maybe not as hot as some others, but that's what I'm saying. I think with if they were to just lose, he could be like potentially ousted from the Chargers because he's been there long enough. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
So going back, we have the Cowboys at Commanders. 26-6 Commanders. We were both right. I love the chaos. Dak just looks so bad. Just so bad with those
they
two
had
picks.
they had, they, they had and I think Sam Howell, and I don't know if he was. I think
Rookie
he was
quarterback. That's
he was a
drafted.
rookie quarterback, but I don't know if he was probably like a late round draft pick.
hmm
And so like the fact that the fact that the Cowboys lost it the way they lost is probably alarming a lot of Cowboys fans because up next they got the Buccaneers. So
I've met
you
some
probably
realistic Cowboys fans, believe it or not, and they were basically saying like, "Man, if we went to the playoffs, we're just one and out. We're one and done." Like I've heard that.
but the thing is they're kind of fortunate that they're matched up against the Buccaneers, who are also very bad,
hmm
and so they might
But Tom
win
Brady, but
one
it's Tom Brady in the playoffs.
playoff Tom Brady.
Come on
And
now.
they got healthy Mike Evans, they got guys and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And maybe they'll show out for the playoffs. But yeah, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're limping into the playoffs because Dak looked really bad in that game.
Right. And for those that don't know, Sam Howell is from North Carolina, and he was drafted fifth at the with pick 144, fifth round, one pick
Fifth
144.
round. Okay. Yeah, so another late round guy.
But he was pretty solid. Like they might have something in Sam Howell, so maybe just let Heineke go as well, or I don't know, because Carson Wentz is
I
not
don't
coming back. That's facts.
Yeah, that guy's got to go, man.
I think you just got to hang it up at this point because you've already basically just messed up multiple teams along the way. But that's
The
a
kiss of death.
yeah, the kiss of death. So we other game we got to talk about is Cards at 49ers, 38-13 49ers. We were both right in this one, but Cards they injury riddled. It was a tough season with a lot of expectations, but 49ers that's the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably the most well-rounded team that is out there right now. Them Eagles are also obviously very well-rounded, but at least on the NFC side, those are the two right there.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about like what I consider like the Super Bowl of the weekend, and that was the Lions at Packers.
Yeah,
2016 Lions, and they got us into the playoffs. Thank you, Detroit Lions for that. Um, and yeah,
first thing we got to acknowledge though, Jamal Adams, the swag Kazekage himself, the top Barry Sanders single season touchdown record. Ain't that
17,
something?
17 touchdowns. Also, he's a free agent, by the way.
Yeah, and I imagine they're gonna retain him
Well, the thing
because
is, are you going to pay him though, or is he going to go to a team that needs running backs? Because let me just tell you this: what if he went to I won't say Seahawks because we already have a running back, but there's other teams that need running backs out there.
yeah, that's true.
Because there's a lot of
Like
teams that
the
actually lost a lot of their young running backs, if not rookie running backs, with ACL tears.
like Jets,
Jets and the Broncos did.
Broncos, yeah, yeah.
Javante
And so yeah, he
Williams.
might go onto another team, but um, yeah, that's the I don't know. That's a good question.
He's like literally my favorite, one of my favorite players in the league. Like I will
I
go
think
and get.
everybody loves him. I don't watch TV. I watch anime.
And he was just
Or
like,
even in the
I want to go play Pokemon. I don't watch
yeah,
TV.
did you say Pokemon? Don't be one of those people. Don't say you say it right. It's Pokemon.
Right. I remember that. Like, man, and then he did the whole thing during the game where it was just like, you know, Kazakage, Hidden Village of the Den.
That's
Oh
his
man,
intro.
I love that intro, and honestly, like I love that like he's representing us weebs out there because I am a weeb myself, proudly.
Yeah,
I
you wouldn't
have
have
a
guessed.
you wouldn't have guessed, right?
Oh shit, you got a Naruto shirt on.
Right? But yeah, but this game was weird. It was very competitive. This game was very competitive, obviously, because if I know
Yeah.
a lot of people seen this game too. Because actually Lions Packers games are actually highly watched every season for some reason. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of weird things that happened during this game. Like with Green Bay players, I don't have their names, but you had one getting ejected for pushing a training staff, and it was his second ejection for the season, which he's the only player to do.
Is his name Quay Walker? I think it was
There's
Quay. Yeah,
Yeah,
Quay
Quay
Walker.
Walker was one, and then there was, I don't know if it was Quay Walker, it was another player that was just
Mhm.
walking in like between the offense during a field goal kick. He just One of the Green Bay players got up, just walked and tried to literally get the ball during a live play. Like, and it was the
Yeah, it
weirdest
was.
thing. That was the
Yeah, I was just trying to look up his name. I can't remember it too, but I think it started with a B, but I can't remember.
Yeah, regardless of the fact that was like some weird stuff happening from the players. Even the Green Bay head coach Matt LaFleur was just like, bro, like, come on, like,
It was it Rasul Douglas?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think that was Rasul Douglas.
It was just weird. There's just weird moments in Green Bay with those two. And then of course
And it was
Aaron.
like
Oh,
it
go
was a
ahead.
weird environment game too, because like it was like a Sub-Zero game. So I think everybody was like, "Ah, shit, we got Jared Goff out there with gloves on his hands, like notoriously bad, I guess,
I
from
think he
from
also had
if
a
you were to listen to
hand. He had a
Twitter."
finger or a hand injury or something too on top of it. If besides the cold, I know the cold's one thing, but like I heard like his finger or something wrong with his finger. Because either way, regardless of the fact, he was throwing the ball kind of weird and in the beginning of the game, but it picked up towards the later part, especially when they just said, "Let's
Oh,
just
for
run the
sure.
ball."
Yeah, and dude, that Dan Campbell has some fucking enormous steel balls because they were going for it on 4th and 2,
That
like,
was the play.
and
That's the one that like literally solidified the game right there.
they they were calling up everything, man. They were like, "Fuck it, we ain't got nothing to lose."
You seen that one play where Sewell got the ball and then he just pitched it back to Swift and then Swift brought it. That was on the last
It
drive.
wasn't Sewell, it was someone else, but I saw that and that was like
I
that
thought it
was
was
a extreme.
it was Sewell.
No, Sewell plays left tackle. This happened on the right side of the field.
He was over there. I saw his number 58.
Oh, maybe it was him then, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was crazy because like that play can go very wrong. Like
Oh,
Packers pick up the ball.
because I was like, come on. I was
I
like, come
thought
on,
I
Lions.
thought it was a
No. I thought it was like a fumble. I was like, no, not the ball.
Yeah, I thought it was. That's what I thought too. I thought they like punched it out. I didn't realize it was drawn up until
It was a perfect toss too.
they
And
played it back.
Swift got like, it was like 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3 after that. It was a 2nd and long and they got to like 3rd and short with that same play.
Yeah,
Um, it was a really good. That was a that like Dan Campbell also had like the reddest nose ever. It was funny, but I just
yeah. Even everybody was roasting him for it on Twitter. They were like, "They got Rudolph out there at coach."
hey, he didn't care. He wanted to win that game and he won it. And yeah, so there were some things that else happened was Kirby Johnson. Shout out to Kirby Johnson for being the only player to pick Aaron off 3 times in one game. He's the only one to do it.
Yeah, not a lot of people can say
And
that. Actually, no one can say that.
you might have potentially ended Aaron Rodgers' career because that man was walking with Randall Cobbs and he even pushed the cameraman off saying like, hey, no, let's just say
Jameson Williams asked him for his jersey, and he said, "No, I'm going to hang on to this one." But being the
I
man.
think it was Jamison Williams and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams was like the first to ask, and then Jamison Williams came later. But like
Oh, if it was Jamal Williams, then he would 100% like those two love each other.
Jamal
Like,
Williams
because
literally said no. He literally said, can I get the jersey?" He said, "I'm gonna keep." But that's like the quote that got out was basically said, "I'm gonna keep this one."
Oh, I thought he said that to Jameson Williams. But yeah,
He
anyways,
said it. He did
if
say to one
Jamal,
of them. The point was, it was both
yeah, but if
Williams.
Jamal Williams asked him for his jersey and he turned down giving him that jersey,
Yeah,
then that there's something going
yeah.
on there.
I actually I caught it when he was asking him for it. And he was just like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep this one." And I was like, "Ooh." And then the walk off with Randall Cobb. He wanted some alone time. So we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. But what do you think on that front?
I Yeah, I can see him hanging it up. I think he's probably been exploring like other opportunities outside of football and stuff like that. Like he shows up on Pat McAfee's show every
He
Tuesday.
didn't
Like
show up
he's like,
today, by the way.
oh, he did
He
it.
skipped they tweeted out
Oh,
saying no, like Pat asking Aaron or whatever the segment is called. I forgot the segment's called, but regardless,
yeah,
because he was having talks for like he was having talks with the organization Green Bay. So
yeah.
they're basically talking about like next set of plans, and I think he's going to take some time and then come back and see.
Do you think Matt LaFleur is gonna like if Aaron Rodgers retires? Do you think that Packers are going to be like, all right, bye Matt LaFleur. We're gonna go a different way, or what do you think?
I think they're going to keep Matt LaFleur. It's just a matter of like where does Green Bay go from here in terms of an organization, because you lost if it happens, you finally lost those two big quarterbacks that literally held up your franchise for all those years or decades really.
Imagine having two Hall of Famers at quarterback
Only
and
one
like
Super
having
Bowl.
two, only one or two Super
Two.
Bowls
Yeah, yeah. Well, technically, yeah, at least
over
that
like what
20
almost
years.
a 30-year period.
Oh, 30. It is 30. Ooh, that is a long period. At least.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think even Brett Favre also ended his career on like it was like off of like a season-ending pick. Same, and literally
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
stat line was literally the same for Aaron Rodgers. And I said, "Ooh, the Green Bay
Yeah, that's
quarterback
history. So what does that
curse."
mean? Jordan Love is the next Aaron Rodgers?
They got Jordan Love for a reason, and I think he's been sitting. It's one of those things. What Green Bay does is let the other quarterback sit behind the star quarterback, and so basically when it's ready, boom, he's going to be ready because he's
If
been
Jordan
here.
Love was that bad, they would have moved on. But they drafted him 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, first round, late first round pick.
Yeah, and so like he's been sitting
This is
behind
his
Aaron Rodgers for a long time.
second or third season behind Aaron Rodgers at this point.
And people were hyped on Jordan Love too when he came in for like a couple drives in that game. Was it, I don't know, last week or the week before?
Yeah, yeah.
And he had like a really big touchdown play and stuff like that. And people were like, "Oh,
He's
it's
he's gonna
Jordan Love
step up.
time."
He's gonna be the next quarterback. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of when, because that's why they
and
got him, and they just said, "Yeah, we're gonna stash him in the back for like the next 4 years."
in terms of good football organizations, Packers is probably
Packers.
one of the
So the thing
best.
about the Packers are very conservative. They don't like to trade. They only like to build through the draft. They
Yeah,
barely in free agency they do stuff, but not as much as you would think.
yeah, and
That's what's frustrating about Green Bay. They don't want to go and trade for anything. They just say, "Well, we build through the we're old school. We build through the draft." And they don't get wide
yeah,
receivers for several years.
yeah, and I mean, just look at all the great wide receivers that came through though. Like they've had talent. Talent can come in however talent comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is frustrating that they're kind of one-sided in that aspect.
Yeah, you can't really do much on that, in that at that point, but you just gotta wait and see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And I remember someone off of Good Morning Football called him like, I love this version of Aaron Rodgers more than like the other versions where he's just they call him like the jungle Aaron or something like that, where like, he's just kind of more open and stuff. So regardless, if this is it, man, but we'll see. 'Cause he
Yeah,
was basically he was being vague at the post game. So we'll see what
and
happens.
I mean he's gonna make that decision in his own time. So we'll see
Facts.
what happens.
All right.
But anyway, do you have anything else for Week 18 games?
Nothing else except that we got into the playoffs. Thank you, Lions.
All right, let's go through these wild card games really quick. So first one up we got is Seahawks at 49ers. We know we're head ass when we say this, but we're going with the Seahawks
Always pick
always.
Seahawks.
We are 10-point underdogs, and meanwhile I'm in the back thinking, why not 14? It don't matter.
Oh man, like if
Chargers at Jaguars. What do you got?
Jaguars.
Oh, I'm going Chargers.
Okay, I'm just gotta remember
Yeah, because
Chargers are injury riddled.
they are injury riddled, and it'll be interesting what it comes
Dolphins
down to.
at Bills. This is not even. Unfortunately, this would have been an
But
awesome game, but Bills.
yeah, let's go with Bills. Giants at Vikings.
They are playing again.
This is a tough one. This is probably
Because
the
I
toughest one.
feel like because the Vikings did beat the Giants, but or not the Giants, excuse me. I think they did play them earlier in the season, but it's up to the Vikings defense. I'm gonna still say the Vikings though, but I don't know.
I'm just gonna. I think it's gonna be Giants. I think
Okay,
the run game is gonna take over.
that's a game we got to watch because I feel like that's a flip of a coin at this point because like the Vikings have
Yeah, it's really
the
close.
best offense, but their defense isn't supporting enough. So
Yeah,
Ravens at
Ravens at
Bengals.
Bengals.
It's Bengals.
Jinx. Bengals. Yeah, I don't think we got to. I don't
Ravens
think we
injury
need to
riddled.
argue about that.
The Ravens are injury riddled, man. We haven't seen
It
Lamar
kind of sucks
Jackson.
because Lamar Jackson's injury has kind of just lingered on and on and on.
It's a
Like we were
PCL. I heard
hoping.
it's a PCL injury. So,
Yeah,
and
and you kind of expect it with like the hits that he
I hope he
takes.
still
The
gets
way he plays.
paid. That's the only issue
Yeah.
because he said after the season they'll figure it out. So, season's still
Next
going.
up we got next up we got Cowboys at Bucks.
Bucks, Bucks.
Yeah, because fuck them boys.
Yeah.
I don't, if Cowboys win, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd rather have the Bucks win.
Oh, of course. And I think that's it for the wild card games. We just pray for the Seahawks.
Yeah. Any last bits from you for before we sign off here?
Yeah. It's been a really crazy, chaotic season. but cheers to the Seahawks for proving people wrong. If anyone out there, if you haven't seen it, the Seahawks social media team posted like a like a compilation of like all the people that were trying to basically talk down on the like basically they were just basically predicting the Seahawks not talk actually no talking down and predicting the Seahawks to be a very bad team this year. But yeah, we proved a lot of people wrong, even me, because I actually said they weren't going to be a playoff team this year. I say we're going to be competitive, but maybe like miss out like on a slim chance into the playoffs. That's what I thought. So yeah,
You know who did got it right? Called it right though. KJ Wright, I think early in the season said Seahawks are going to be a 9-win team and squeak into the playoffs. And now,
he really said
lo and
that.
behold, yeah, he tweeted it.
Oh, that's so. I know he's
Or
just
no,
like.
I don't know if he tweeted it. I think he might have said it on Richard Sherman's podcast.
Doesn't
I
he have
can't
his
remember
own
which one it
podcast?
was.
I thought he. I don't. I forget if he had his own podcast or not. Because I haven't seen him being a little active. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was one or the other.
Oh yeah. And is there anything else from you?
Yeah, just add on to that. It's time for people to come make good on the outlandish bets with that they were making about the Seahawks in the offseason. A lot of people were saying that we weren't going to win more than 3 games and that kind of thing.
Some people said zero,
Like
by the
Colin,
way.
some had us winning 0 games, which is just completely outlandish. But like I think Colin Cowherd was the guy that said we were only going to have 3 wins this season. But his co-host or at the time on this episode, Jason McIntyre, said he'd shave a Seahawks logo into the side of his head if they went above 500. So
And we did.
I want picks. I want picks.
And that was the fun. And that was like one of the clips too in the Seahawks post. And all I remember was Lockett just saying, "We're in the playoffs." Oh man. But hey, it's been a good time, but this episode has to come to an end. A little over, but we got so excited over the draft and potential, whatever else could happen in the off season. So I can't wait for that one. But that's it from us here at Mr. Reps Podcast. Thanks for joining us. But please, hey, go subscribe to us. Subscribe to us on your platform that you're listening to this podcast on. Follow all the channels, all that good stuff. And follow us on our Twitter and Instagram handles at Missed Reps. And hey, we hope to see you again next week. Peace.